bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Hola! Fade to Black, it's Monday. Good to be back in the chair. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man, today's Monday, July 17th. 197 days into the new year, just 168 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Check this out. I was just talking to Rita and the Fadernauts in the bunker cam right before the show about this. Over the next 2 weeks, and we do this a lot, but over the next 2 weeks, we have nothing but first-time guests on this show. And I want you to think about that for a second. All right? You start a podcast, you want to do this, you have a little radio thing, you're on a network somewhere, you're on Blog Talk Radio, and I get that, and you want to go do your thing. All right? You go do it. And you go down and you want to book guests and you want to do this and do a little of that. And I get that, right? Totally cool. And you go down the list, and you're like picking off the list of names and people that you've wanted to interview, and you've read the books, you've seen them on TV, and yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. That would be cool. And fine, right? Well, we've done 700 shows here, 700, and when you get to that kind of number, and throw in the other stuff that I've done and that we've done, the list of names is extraordinary. And I go down that list and I look. Most of them, not all of them, but I would say the vast majority of what we do here are first-time guests, exposing to you somebody that you maybe have never heard from before, right? And that when it came to me listening to late night, overnight conspiracy talk radio, I mean, there's those guests that you'd want to hear from, and it's fine, it's cool, but it's those gems, those little nuggets that come along. You're like, I've never heard of this person, never heard this person before. Oh, this is cool, right? I wonder what, and that's what we do here. So here we go. Tonight, Marc D'Antonio is here. And although Marc has been a friend for a long time, I cannot believe he has never been on this show. First-time guest tonight. Really look forward to this. More on Marc in just a bit. But that's tomorrow night. Or tonight. Tomorrow night, Rob Potter is here. Now, again, somebody that's been out there for a long time. First-time guest on this show, right? So how great is that? And then Wednesday night, we have Bernard Gunther here. and somebody else that Rita and I have just been very, very intrigued with, and we have him. Monday of next week, we have somebody that you have probably never, maybe you've seen him on TV if you've been watching this kind of stuff for the last 25 years or so. And we're going to announce him this week. But Rita and I just, again, in our studies of Egypt and Egyptology and what's going on out there, this is somebody else that we have discovered. And well, we didn't discover. We discovered ourselves. We discovered for ourselves. And went and found, chased him down. And I cannot wait for Monday's show. And then Tuesday and Wednesday next week, we have a part 1 and part 2. We'll announce that later on in the week. And a very, very, very special series of shows. So over the next 2 weeks, nothing but first-time guests here. How cool is that? I'm so excited about just doing this show every single day and having this kind of fun with all of you. So just buckle up and get ready. All right, Marc D'Antonio tonight, tomorrow night, Rob Potter, Wednesday, Brian Gunther, and of course, Thursday night, John Rappaport will be here with us, No More Fake Newsroom Live. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do, at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Stevie Ray Vaughan gifts are flying in the sandbox right now. Oh, very cool. I saw the Ace Frehley too, man. What's going on with that? Okay, did I miss something today? Am I missing something? You guys always send me those messages, right? All right. Any questions or comments during the show? Hashtag F2BQ. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Today, I need permission from the people that sent me these images. Got 2 really cool UFO pics today. Very, very cool. Now, I'm going to go and do some analysis. Hey, Marc D'Antonio's on the show tonight. Send him to Mark and have him take a look at this. He is the absolute very best. Don't forget, subscribe to our podcast where we have over 680 archive shows, actually 689, 690 after today. How cool is that? $2 a month, Apple, Android, all platforms, just $2 a month. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the podcast, or you can become a member, become an official Fate or Not. And you do that in our membership section on the website. You can do whatever you want. You're going to get, you can go from free and Fate or Not, where Thursday nights you get the bunker cam, you become a Fate or Not, all of that. That's free. All the way through our Game Changer, right? Where you get commercial-free downloads, you get the gear, you get the hats, you get the shirts, you get the bunker cam, you get an email, all of that stuff, okay? All right, so that's the membership area. Do that. And, of course, support us through all of our sponsors, Life Change Tea, GetTheTea.com, River Moon Coffee, New Pharma, and Studio Dome Speakers. All of the banners over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. All right, let's get the show cracking. I want to get to D'Antonio as quickly as I can. Happy birthday to today. Donald Sutherland is 82. Yeah, Donald Sutherland. Body Snatchers. That's it. Everything else is great. I get that. I really do. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. On this day in history, OTD, 1996, Flight 800 explodes over Long Island, New York. While several United States Navy vessels were training in the Long Island area, speculating that Flight 800 had been accidentally shot down by a Navy test missile, U.S. authorities ruled out the possibility of an errant missile strike by the Navy, but there were a lot of witnesses on the shore that said that they saw streaks of light going up and striking the plane. A large number of people, including former White House Press Secretary Pierre Salinger, supported that theory. That's right, on this day in 1996. Fader fact. Okay, here's a Fader fact for you. Now, every day, we hand you these gifts, these little gems called Fader facts. And we hand them to you. You use them for what you will. Okay? But here is a real Fader fact. The German chocolate cake was named after an American baker by the name of Samuel German and was not named after the country of Germany. Yeah. There you go. Now you're armed and dangerous. Now that is a fact. That is a fact you can go and argue with anybody about. Think about that. Tonight, very special first-time guest on the show, Marc D'Antonio is here. UFO photo analyst, researcher, CGI pro, and astronomer. Head analyst for MUFON tonight, right here on Fade to Black. Tomorrow night, Rob Potter joins us. Oh, man. And with Rob, I have no idea where that conversation's going to go. It's just going to be one of those nights tomorrow night, right here on Fade to Black, Rob Potter. He's got his own radio show. He's out there doing his own thing and has been doing it for a very long time. But tomorrow night, I get to turn it right around on Rob, and he's going to be here on Fade to Black. Wednesday night, Bernard Gunther is here. 3 nights, 3 first-time guests. Thursday night is another Fader night with John Rappaport, and there's No More Fake Newsroom live, followed by Open Lines. Tonight, maybe we'll take some phone calls, 323-825-5045 or 323-275-9695. Now, River Moon Coffee. Click on that banner. Promo code F2B Blend. Fade to Black Blend. And in case you ever wonder, if you ever get over to Casa Day Church, you ever do, wait till I break out the River Moon Coffee cabinet and you get to witness. Yeah, you will see. That's right. Okay, today, everybody, is 7/17/17. Pretty cool, huh? Think about that. 7/17/17. It's not going to happen again for 1,000 or 100 years. 1,000 years. 100 years. 7/17/17. Pretty cool. And as far as numbers go, you know, I'm not a numerologist. Numerologist. I'm not. But that's got to have some weight behind it. 7/17/17. And it looks pretty good to the eye when you just look at it. 7/17/17. Good birthday, too. Wouldn't that be a cool birthday? And I remember with my birthday, 10/10/10, right? October 10th, 2010. 10/10/10. That day rolled by the way. Nothing, you know, I didn't see any ghosts. I didn't see any UFOs. There was no planetary alignments and all of that stuff. 10/10/10. But here we are, 7/17/17. And it looks good to me. And speaking of looking pretty good to the eye, tonight we have Marc D'Antonio with us. And he's someone that I have looked up to and also sought out for information over the years. I have. Out of all these years, too, which is strange. I guess we can talk to Marc about this tonight. But I think I've only hung out with him once. You know, where we were like in a bar drinking. I think that only happened one time. I really need to think about that, but I think it only happened once, considering how much correspondence him and I have had over the years. And although we have often disagreed on a number of issues, and I respect Marc, he's usually right, okay? And he has caused me many times to question my own judgment. So I want you to think about that as you listen to Marc and I talk tonight, because we respect each other. But I think we also respect each other's opinions, thoughts, evidence, testimony, eyewitness stuff, because we've both been through it, right? And certainly Marc, being the professional that he is, not only with MUFON and his the analysis he does on photographs and videos, but his professional life, what he actually does is he works in the special effects industry. Of course, that's the name of his company, but He builds models for different things that get shot. He does CGI, animation, illustration, all of that on a professional level for commercials and movies. So he's got the professional credentials to back up when he says to me, Jimmy, it looks like this, or Jimmy, it looks like that. I have to stop and listen to Mark, and then we argue about it. But that's the fun part, okay? I want to say this. Mark's appearance on the show tonight made me go back into the clouded brain that I have and seek out some of my favorite photos and cases from the past. Some of these he was involved with, some not, but also he has an opinion on these two as well. And so do I. Some of it I've stated on this show. But I just wanted to go back for memory's sake for you tonight and review some of these because we may talk about them later. And the first thing that came to mind is Billy Meier. And as I started to think about Billy Meier today, there was a few, it's weird. I don't know if it's non-locality or some kind of quantum thing, but it started to pop up in Twitter. I was like, wow, that's kind of weird because I'm writing about it. I'm thinking about it. I'm looking up stuff now and looking up past shows and what I had said about certain things. Billy Meier pops up in Twitter as I'm typing his name, and it's a significant case. It's a significant case of a hoax. Now, Billy Meier, completely in its totality from the beginning to this very day. Okay, just a complete fabricated hoax. Now, if you are a proponent, if you are a believer in Billy Meier, fine. That's everything is individual. Everything in this pursuit of knowledge and how you go down that path in life, it's so up to the individual. Okay, so I respect you for that. But it's a hoax, plain and simply. And there may have been elements, maybe once in Billy Meier's life, or maybe he saw something strange in the sky, and then he then decided to go down that path. I don't know. But his photographic evidence that he put forward caught me by surprise in 1984. And he is largely responsible, partly responsible for where I am today. I've got to give Billy Meier credit for that. I found out later that it was all a hoax, but at the time, it caused my curiosity to expand and try to figure out what was really going on out there. In 1984, I was with Dale Romero. Everybody knows Dale from this show. And we were kids. We were very young. That was 35 years ago. And I was at Dale's brother's house where down in Orange County, El Toro. And he had a Billy Meier coffee table book there. That big thing with that famous shot on the cover in full color. Big book. And it stopped me in my tracks. And I flipped through it. And I was looking at these pictures. I was like, this is incredible. They're real. Oh, my God. And I read a little bit about Billy Meier. I went out and talked to Dale's brother about it. And then I got back to Pasadena, and I just went full tilt Billy Meier, collecting everything that I could. And by the end of the 80s, I was completely deflated about Billy Meier. Okay? So as it flowed into the 90s and the internet and the other things that started to come out about Billy Meier, for me, it was just case closed. But make no mistake here. If you believe in Billy, that's fine. I did it one time, and it forced me into this life. So I want to thank Billy for that. Now, the monstrosity of the hoax and how far he took it and what he was willing to do since then boggles the mind. I don't know if it was money, if it was celebrity, if it was fame, if it was women. I don't know. I don't. But the pictures, the video, the tapes, the film, the stories, everything was fabricated. So there you go. And that's one example of photographs and imaging and research and analysis that can bring down a case. That's what Marc D'Antonio does. So we may talk about Billy Meier. And then we have something like the Rex Heflin photographs. Rex Heflin photographs were Polaroids, unlike Billy Meier, which was all film, both photographs and video. But Rex Heflin was a guy that just appeared out of nowhere. He was a worker in Orange County, oddly enough, down in the same area where I discovered Billy Meier, in Orange County, Tustin. So Rex Heflin was a worker for the county, pulls over to the side of the road, sees something. He's in his work truck, and he's got a Polaroid camera there that he used for his job, and it's on the front seat of the pickup truck, and he sees this disc, and he shoots the disc like 5 or 6 times, through the windows on the truck, and then drives down the road, and then takes the famous picture of the circle ring of smoke up in the clouds where allegedly the craft had, took off. Well, anyway, the Rex Heflin photographs are different than the Billy Meier's photographs. Billy Meier's was staged. The Rex Heflin stuff was done with a Polaroid camera taken from a car on the side of the road. Now, could Rex have thrown some kind of, and it has been supposed over the years, like it was a wheel from a train. Well, how much does that weigh? I have no idea. But different ideas on how this was done. But it looked to me like it was thrown out over the field if it was. But I think the Rex Heflin photographs are real. I think it was a real object. And I know that the Ann Druffel, who has got the photographs to this day, who lives not too far from us, she's in possession of those photographs and has invited me over to look at them and to hold them. And I will do that soon. But I think the Rex Heflin stuff is real. The Men in Black showed up at his house, took the photographs. They disappeared for a decade. Then they were returned later. But what does Mark think about those when he looks at that kind of analysis, and how do you approach that? And then we have the story of the Dragonfly drones. A lot of analysis has been done on the Dragonfly drones. And Mark, over the years, did some serious analysis of this with rendering and CGI and how the stuff was created or could be created. And again, I disagreed there with Mark's conclusions, and I have my own reasons for that. And with the Dragonfly drones, which were photographed allegedly in different areas too, not specifically here in California, but were again allegedly shot on film. Therefore, how could it be CGI? I don't know. Or was it some kind of elaborate model that was built and somehow suspended in the air, then photographed? I don't know. Mark's analysis, which I have read many, many times over the years, I just completely disagree with. But I'm not the professional here. I'm only depending on my eye. And the other part for the Dragonfly drones, for me, if it was a hoax, and a very elaborate one at that, is Carrot comes into play from Palo Alto. And how does Carrot play into this and the symbolism and the symbols and the software, the alleged software that was painted on the outside of the crafts, how all of this comes into play? I think it overlaps very well together. And I'm confused. And I think the story is very elaborate. And when it comes to black and white stories like this that are that complete, I am in love. Right? So that's me. And then we have the case of the Phoenix Lights. Again, the analysis is there. The eyewitness testimony is there. The videotape is there, right? And how would he conclude one way or another based on that? Now, and then there is, and I forgot about this, believe it or not, the most recent case. Well, actually, I've sent Mark some pictures of ESETI, but I don't know if we'll have time to get around to that tonight. That's not what the show is about. But contact in the desert. That's right. With our sighting last year, and Mark reminded me of this today. We laughed about it because I completely forgot. Was his critical analysis about what was going on, and I'll ask him what my response was, but I think I kind of fired back at him a little bit, and so there you go. What is it that he sees? How does he get to it? Well, that's what's so exciting about tonight. I want you to know that he is somebody that I respect, somebody that I really like as a friend. I think he's very funny, very genuine. He's an astronomer. He's got an observatory. He does his online night viewing stuff. He's got a great YouTube channel. He's a professional. He's well respected, even by me. But we can butt heads. And that's what I love about this community. And I keep saying it over and over again. If you can't come in here and talk, if you can't come here and just let your stuff hang out and we listen to everybody, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. And that's what the two of us have always done. So kick back, get ready. Tonight, it's Marc D'Antonio, MUFON photo analyst, CGI pro. Seriously. Oh, and maybe, just maybe, we're going to talk about one of our great heroes tonight that is, I guess we'll call him a partner of his, somebody that he works with, Douglas Trumbull. That's right, Doug Trumbull, 2001 A Space Odyssey, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The special effects genius in Hollywood is somebody that Mark works with. Who am I to question Marc D'Antonio? Right? Well, maybe. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Marc D'Antonio. You just sit right there. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply. And, of course, the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to getthetea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to getthetea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic, and very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Again, GetTheT.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at kgraradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. kgraradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. It is Monday. Over the next 2 weeks, 6 first-time guests on Fade to Black. How cool is that? Kicking it off tonight, Marc D'Antonio. He has a degree in astronomy and is the Mutual UFO Network's MUFON chief photo video analyst. He is CEO of Effects Models, a model-making and special effects company specializing in digital physical models and organic special effects in the film industry. He has an extensive work history in the film and television arena, appearing regularly on a number of networks. His efforts creating UFO to G2, a remote UFO detection system with Academy Award winner, the one and only Douglas Trumbull, promises to bring ufology into the 21st century. We're going to talk about that tonight. He has appeared on CNN, Discovery, Sci-Fi, History, Nat Geo, and Science channels. He also creates visual effects props, directs visual effects shots, and creates CGI for productions. He appears regularly on NASA's Unexplained Files and the series What on Earth? Seeking answers to perplexing Earth mysteries brought to us via Earth-orbiting satellites. Marc operates the John Zach Memorial Observatory in Connecticut. In support of the quest for extraterrestrial life, he originated and operates the Sky Tour live stream from the observatory. It is being ready to fully automated online use and will be moved to Arizona in the near future under a fully dark sky where all automation systems are installed, tested, and completed. His website is fxmodels.com, and I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, the one and only Marc D'Antonio. Marc, welcome, my friend.
Wow, that was a heck of an introduction. Thanks, Jimmy. It's nice to be here. It's a great night.
Yeah, it is a great night. And
well, for me here, because I got stars and stuff. It's
I know,
nice,
I know. I watch your stuff all the time on your YouTube channel, and I'm fully jealous. I mean, I haven't gotten a telescope yet, if you can believe that or not. But, one day I'll be able to see some of the stuff that you just go and do it whenever you want. And that is so cool. We'll get to that in a second, though.
Sure.
First, I've got to do the first-time guest disclaimer. Are you ready?
Go for it.
It's just you and I sitting on my couch talking as friends. Where we start, where we end, but we're going to end as friends. There's the disclaimer. You ready to go?
Hey, man, I've been ready. It's okay.
Okay.
Hey, look,
this is
you and I have agreed on some things, disagreed on some things, and I'm okay with that.
It has to be that way.
Yeah, in the end, no two minds see alike. I mean, that's what makes us learn. That's what makes us change the way we look at things. Well, you stretch me, my mind, I stretch your mind, and we kind of meet in the middle somewhere. That's how it works.
And that's how it should be. And I enjoy that too as well. But the real truth is, you're the pro, right? I'm just a radio guy. So who am I to butt heads with you? But nonetheless, we have our opinions.
Jimmy, you were the guy that saw something, for instance, and I was just looking at the video. So I could be pro all I want, and I could sit around and strut with my feathers and say, hey, I'm a pro. But guess what? In the end, you're the guy that saw it.
Me and 400 other people, right?
That's right. So in the end, what I saw, for instance, if I see something on video that doesn't purport to do what you said it does, all I can say is you might have seen everything you said, but the video doesn't show it. And that's all I do. And I don't try to say you didn't see what you saw. I try to say the video didn't show what you said you saw.
And here's the thing. You people have, over the years, you have earned that respect. Okay? And so when you speak, people listen. But what comes with that, Mark, is a whole truckload of responsibility. So how do you deal with that? Do you watch what you say?
I have to watch what I say, okay? But I can't not say something because it might hurt someone's feelings or because someone might get offended or whatever. I don't say things that would, make people feel like, I'm doing anything bad socially. I would never do that. Okay, it doesn't even enter my mind. Those things aren't in my mind to say. So, that said, if I see something that I understand as a sky anomaly, let's say it was a rocket launch, for instance, okay, I'll endure the slings and arrows, okay, to say what I think it is. And if I really strongly believe it's what it is, then I will say, okay, the facts will come out in a couple days probably, but for now, I'm sticking to my guns. I'm not changing my position. This was a failed rocket launch, for instance.
Right. Well, like with Contact in the Desert, and which I had forgotten about our dialogue on that until you brought it up.
You that's so great of me.
Here that analysis jumped out there, and you jump in, and you say, it wasn't this, it was a satellite, I think is what you said, and the rest, everybody out there reads that and goes, okay, church is a doofus. Because Mark just said what and that's the power of you, right?
And you know what? Things are different these days. I mean, I know that was just a year ago or so, but Jimmy, you're right. Okay, when I saw that, I saw the video. The video showed me something that looked like satellites. And for the people that don't know what I'm talking about, or you're talking about, there was a video that you sent that you took on a night vision system, which, by the way, after I saw that video, you know what I did? I went out and I bought one of those night vision systems.
Right.
Because I wasn't going to be talking out of my rear end about the capabilities of that night vision system if I didn't have one myself and had been working with it. So I bought one immediately, okay, so that I could actually go and make sure that what I was seeing was what I thought was part of the unit, and so forth and so on. So, and it was. So, I mean, for me, the unit acted as I suspected it would, and that was good. So it's in my closet. I use it from time to time. I take it out. And, you're the one that turned me on to the qualities of that as a possibly, good night vision instrument,
Right.
And this is an example of where you saw something. The video didn't agree with what you saw, in my view, because what you saw was something far different from what the video shows, in my view, if the way you're describing it. And then I have a unit now to actually test and confirm that the unit acts just like it appeared to act in the video. So now we part as friends with that, and we agree to disagree on what it may be. I am actually not saying that it is this guaranteed. I'm saying it has all the hallmarks and characteristics of this, of satellites, say.
Right.
You saw something different. You saw different activity. You saw something that wasn't on the video. If I saw the thing just come to a stop and then start moving again, well, you know what? I mean, that's a game changer.
Well, it is. But the element, there were two videos that you saw. One was without night vision, and that was with the documentary film crew. That was just a regular shot. That was in black and, well, it looks like it's black and white because you're shooting the sky. And so there was that. And then the other one was a night vision version of it. But if you were standing next to me there, what you would have seen is this thing when it started off on the ground. Okay, so it's going across the desert floor up above, along the foothills of the mountains about a mile away from us, and slowly ascended and turned up, and then went into the sky. It took 5 minutes for this thing to complete itself. And when it was done, it was just a little, it was tinier than a pinprick of starlight in the sky. That's when it stopped and then turned to the left. So
yeah, see, that sounds like a really, that's an exotic sighting.
It's crazy. Okay? It was crazy. It was
and I
me.
wish I was there, man. It's like I want to see this too. You got to understand. I don't want to. I don't want to debunk people. I want to be there and say, "Wow, that really is so cool." But it's like, I just get these videos. I don't get to see the real thing sometimes.
Now, before we move on, let me ask you this: because you are the manager of this observatory, you operate it. You've got this nice telescope, and you're always looking up in the sky. Have you seen anything from the observatory that has tripped you out?
Well, it's funny. We talk about, we have a sky full of satellites. We have a sky full of stuff. Okay. When we look through the atmosphere at the stars, and we want to look at something, it's actually not uncommon. And I've had this happen a number of times. Caught it on video, in fact, in the observatory, where while I'm looking, suddenly a meteor goes through, pew, right in that tiny little field of view. Why would a meteor? What are the chances, right?
Right.
You say, wow, seems like it's actually infrequent that it would actually do that. But the fact is, we're being hit by millions of tons a year of meteoric dust. So it stands to reason that you might actually catch one in a telescope with a special camera that can detect very, very low light things. They're probably coming in all the time, and it's probably rare that you won't see them, for instance. And satellites, similarly, we have tens of thousands of satellites in orbit, right? So we expect that at some point or another, while we're looking through a telescope, that we're going to actually see something go streaking through. And I do, and I have. And I've been doing a sky tour when all of a sudden, oh, look at that, did you see that? People say, oh, that was cool. We're looking at the moon, and something went right in front of the moon, at one point. And my friends at P&K Space Imaging, Paul and Keith. Okay, they've had many things. They do the moon and the planets, and they have many things cross in front of the moon. And they always talk to me. We work back and forth with each other, and it's kind of cool to watch them catch something on a lunar stream that they're doing, because they're not doing it to catch something on a lunar stream like something crossing in front of the moon, but they do anyway, and they catch it. And because it's stored as a stream, because it's stored on YouTube, you can always go back and look at it. And we've done that many times and slowed them down, frame by frame, trying to check it out, see what it is. And it's only just theories, Jim. It's only theories, and we only think we know what we're looking at based on what we know is up there. But the question is, what about all the stuff we don't know is up there, even our own? We have things of our own that are up there that obviously we don't know about. That the general public doesn't know about. And maybe there's something up there that belongs to another civilization too, for all we know, that's watching us from a distance. And if I was an alien civilization, I'd probably set up on the far side of the moon, and I'd have a little, staging point there, and then take off and go to the Earth and hide in the oceans, because no one can find me there. No one goes in the oceans, not to the places that these things could go.
Right.
So I see a whole methodology here for how I would act if I wanted to undertake a surreptitious, clandestine surveillance mission on a society that is known to be belligerent, with strangers, basically.
Right. Well, what about, have you ever seen a satellite change directions?
No. See, I haven't ever seen that. And when people tell me that they've seen one that does that, I go, oh, it's like, I want that. Come on.
Right.
Take me there with you next time. I want to see that. I want to see that happen. I don't want to hide it. I want to yell it to the world. I want to show the video, and I want to actually prove that they're here. That's what I'm all about. That's what Doug's all about. Doug Trumbull and I, trying to do this UFO detection system. And this is not child's play to do this stuff. There's got to be a lot of considerations, because you got to win over the media. The media puts a tinfoil hat on your head as soon as you say UFO. You might as well turn into a a guy that just talks like this. Hey, I saw me a UFO. I mean,
right.
The media treats you like an idiot, gives you a tinfoil hat, and say, "Hey, let's put him on as the funny comedic relief in the newscast. Put him on after the accident scenes, that kind of thing."
Well, what about the amount of? Give me an idea. Give the audience an idea of how many photos come through your hands in a month from MUFON for your analysis. What's a typical month?
A typical month, I'll see anywhere between 10 and 110, photos and or videos that people send me from all over the world, and I do give it my best shot to analyze as many as I can. I do have a little bit of a backlog, and so it does take me some time sometimes, but you have to understand, and you do actually. We've talked about this part of it. 99% of all the things I see, 99.9, okay, are ordinary objects captured in an extraordinary manner, and that phrase is very important. Ordinary object captured in an extraordinary manner. And when I see a bird that's caught in a blur on a frame of a photo, and someone says, "I did not see that when they took the picture," I truly believe them. Okay? When I see a butterfly that's caught in a frame of a photo and it looks really odd, or a beetle flying through and the reflections off of its carapace on the back are very bright, and you can actually see the wings, in some of these photos, the little outstretched lines, radial lines sticking off of them, then, I'm sure they didn't see them. Because what we do as human beings is we ignore the obvious every day. As we're driving down the road, how many times do people say, "Did you see that deer on the side of the road?" And, "Oh, no, I didn't." Or, "Did you see that bird flying by that was a giant bird?" "No, I missed it." So your passenger might have seen it, you didn't, or you're the passenger, you didn't see it. We ignore the obvious every day. When we take pictures, we're focusing on the subject. We're not focusing on that bug flying through. See? So we're easily distracted, and we are focused creatures. When we focus, there's no stopping us, actually. Our focus is really pretty good in the animal kingdom. And so when we see something, we focus and we take a picture. Okay, I took a picture of that Aztec temple, but I didn't purposely take a picture of that thing flying through that looks like a UFO to me.
Well, what about the 0.1%?
Well, the 0.1% represents those that there's not enough information to make a determination. And I like those, and I'll tell you why. The ones that don't have enough information for us to make an interpretation means that there's a chance that more data will vindicate the sighting as legitimate and actual, or put it in the category of unknown. So there's a chance, you see, that the ones that don't have enough information could be the real thing. And I like that. See, I like that. I mean, I've been doing this since, over a decade, and doing just what I'm doing. And this is something that is, to me, it's what makes me get up in the morning, is this kind of thing. Because I want to find those ones that are unknowns. I want to find the ones that have no explanation. I have one sighting I had, if you want me to talk about that now, that I studied that I could never find an adequate explanation for.
And was this the one in the Midwest?
This was in Montana.
In Montana, yeah.
You remember that one?
Yeah. So tell us about it.
Sure. This father was with his little daughter, and I forget where he's going. I think it was a baseball stadium. I could be wrong. And he starts to, he's filming with his camera. It was like a 8 or 16 millimeter camera, and he's filming just to get some footage. And he catches, and it's only 3 seconds long, maybe a little less. He catches these two silver objects flying at extremely fast speed. And they go behind a tower, a radio tower, or a light tower. All right, and it's a tower that has the a transmission tower. It has the girdery, the girder-looking construction. And I studied that video for quite a while, and I realized, you know what? These things are actual. This is not This isn't doctored footage. Okay, it was in the 50s, but long before there was actually the ability to doctor footage in any kind of convincing way. And when I looked at this footage, I realized those silver objects are brilliantly lit. So it could be that they're reflecting the sun or they're generating their own light. Now, if they were generating their own light, I figured, well, they had to be something like possibly a meteorite coming in. But it was missing something. Meteors like that you can see during the day are big, and they're also doing something called ablating. They're actually losing parts of themselves, and they're on fire. They're burning in the atmosphere.
Right.
Okay, right. And these weren't doing that. There was absolutely nothing trailing them, like, tiniest amount of smoke. They leave contrails, like aircraft. They leave contrails in the sky. And they're about 70 to 100 miles up, possibly. You don't know exactly how high, and they were moving fairly shallow. So meaning right, horizontal almost. So technically, when you look at that, you're looking at what could be a meteor that's missing the Earth. And when they do that, they do ablate a huge amount of their mass, then lose it to heat, and you see smoke. You see even particles breaking off all the time. That's what you see. This had nothing remotely like that. And it wasn't because it was a 16 millimeter film that wasn't too sensitive. It was very, very good film. For that 3 seconds, you saw everything. And I can't explain this. I can't explain these two objects that move that fast. Now, did I do research as to what it could have been? Of course. Would I not be doing? I wouldn't be doing my diligence if I wasn't. There were some F-86 Super Sabres that were flying in the area that day, and F-86s have a very shiny skin. They're silver. Could it have been a pair of these planes reflecting the sunlight? There's a chance, except for the fact that they were more than 80 miles away in a different direction.
And they wouldn't have moved that fast either, because when you watch that sequence of film, it looks extraordinarily fast. I mean, like, we're getting to stupid speed.
I like that. It's like ludicrous speed.
Yeah, ludicrous. Yeah. Well, not quite to ludicrous. Right? We're not quite to plaid. Okay. We're not to plaid. But nonetheless, streaking across the sky.
Yeah, and that's that. And what you just said, that's the thing that actually made me think that this was a sighting that had more information to give at some point, because they weren't streaking; they were actually just pinpoints moving across the sky.
Right.
If they were streaking, then we could say, well, they are losing some mass. They are ablating some material off of them as they're coming into the atmosphere. Maybe it is a meteor, but they were doing no such thing.
Right.
No such thing. These were just little pinpoints. There was an off chance they could have been a reflection off those Super Sabres, and that everybody in the chain of events got all their directions wrong, and nobody knew exactly where the planes were, perhaps. But now you're going into the stupid chances, like you were saying, like stupid speed. Well, these are like stupid chances.
Right.
What are the chances that that's going to be happening? It's not very likely that so many people in the chain of command, from the people that launched the Super Sabres and that were monitoring them at the control towers, would all have wrong information.
Now, one of the things that I enjoy about the past is film. That's one of the most important things. I mean, we're talking about film here, and today with we have the advantage of everybody's got a camera now, so we have a whole lot of images that show up every single day. And so that's cool too. That's a bonus. But everybody's got Photoshop now. Everybody's got some UFO program, some app on their phone, right? You add a UFO to your image. Well, how do you know today? Do you have the ability to look at a JPEG and you're able to tell if it's been doctored and messed with?
Yes, I can, and for the most part, it works. There are times when it doesn't work, but I won't explain that to your open audience.
Right, right.
Because, but I don't want to give them, assistance to fool me. But I will tell you what I can use. I use a process where I can actually study the compression algorithm that is made on the images that I get. That compression algorithm will be a telltale sign, because if you cut and paste something in, or you have an app that does it for you into an existing picture, then the object that's pasted in using this algorithm is going to look so unbelievably blatantly different from the rest of the picture that you can say with some fairly high degree of accuracy that it was a cut and paste job. And then I've seen a bunch of those. I use this every day, on imagery. And I even test myself on imagery that I know is real, that is to say, images of real things.
Right.
To see if I can find any cases where the real ones actually look like they're forged. Because that would be a problem too. Because then it would say that the technology just isn't worth anything. Because if it can give you a false positive all the time, well, that's no good. And this doesn't. This is actually pretty cut and dry. And I can tell you the name of the process. It's called error level analysis. And I know that ELA, error level analysis, is something that's somewhat controversial. But there are ways to if you get the JPEG or you get the image file at the right time in the process, the sequence of it passing around the internet, you can make the determination early on before too many other changes are made to it, and then you're golden. You can actually say it with some impunity. You can actually make it clear to people that you kind of know what you're thinking here, and they really won't argue with you too much.
With when we come back, we're going to hit a break here in 60 seconds. When we come back, there are a few historical things that I want to kind of jump back and get your opinions on. I do want to talk about Billy Meyer. I don't care what your opinion is. I have mine, and I want to jump into that. But I also want to. One of the first things that you and I sort of bumped heads on was dragonfly drones. And so I want to go back, and I want to discuss.
You want to go back to 2007?
I want to go back then because your breakdown and your analysis of it was just superlative. It was right there, and it was on point. But I disagreed with all of it. So I do want to go back and visit those, and then go to the present time too as well. But let's do that. It's going to be a great conversation tonight. Been looking forward to this for a long time. Our guest tonight, Marc D'Antonio. That's right, MUFON photo analysis analyst, and of course CGI pro, expert, astronomer, all of that. Tonight, our friend Marc D'Antonio is here. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. It's going to be great. Nothing like a Monday on Fade to Black. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly ancient life oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Gobekli Tepe. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product. What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner, Gobekli Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest is Marc D'Antonio. And this portion of the broadcast is brought to you by River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. It's dark, it's complex, it's smoky. Just go to the River Moon Coffee banner over on our site. Use the promo code F2B Blend. It's right there in the banner. Promo code's right there. And you're going to get 15% off of your order today. Now, everybody on the bunker cam, check this out. I want to thank Jason Quitt. He sent this to me today, and just say the number 23. How cool is that? Is that beautiful? That's what I'm talking about. It's heavy too. I feel it. I feel the power going into my chest. I just got this really cool pendant today, Mark, from Jason Quitt, and and I immediately put it on a chain and I got to tell you, man, I feel pretty distinct at the moment. It looks pretty good. So now, I had said in my opening statements tonight that Billy Meyer, for me, I've got to give him credit for opening my eyes and taking me down this path, because in the beginning, when I saw his images, I'm very young, and I see the coffee table book, the famous one, right? Back in the early 80s. And I was like, holy crap. Wow. Right. And I'm flipping through and then of course, over the years, the balloon completely deflated, at least for me. And I know that there are still supporters out there. Fine. If it helps you down this path of discovery and opens up your mind to things, great, because that's what it did for me. But I know now that everything that I look at from Billy, to me, in my opinion, is just a complete hoax. Now, you have in your life, I know that you've looked at these photographs. How do you think I want your opinion. Did they fool you?
Something, I'll be honest with you. I've been into photography and doing photos ever since I was, I'd say about 9. At age 9, I built my first camera. I built it. I used cardboard and an old lens, and I actually built a camera, built a film holder, learned how cameras work starting at age 9, because I wanted to take astro photos. Because every time I looked up in the sky, I felt homesick, and I just loved the sky. So I'd go out every night it was clear and just sit out there and just look up. And then I wanted to take pictures of it, record it. So naturally, I would investigate strange pictures taken with other cameras that other people have seen. And I came across Billy Meyer's stuff. And when I saw the photos, my opinion was immediate. That is to say, I recognized bad photos. There was bad depth of field. He didn't know how to focus the camera right. So you say, okay, well, he was a bad photographer. did he still take pictures of a valid thing? Well, it depends, because you have to look at the scale of the objects he was showing you. He was showing a UFO in full sharp focus over a little tiny car, and the reflections on the car were wrong. The car wasn't in focus, and I recognized it as a toy car. So I was like, wait a minute, is this is all fakery? Billy Meyer was the first UFO thing that I had heard about, okay, as a kid. And upon investigating Billy Meyer, I was just really disheartened, thinking, man, this UFO thing, it's all a bunch of fakes and a bunch of hoaxes. That's how I was introduced to ufology. Then, as I started to learn, because my degree, as you know, is astronomy, and my specialty in astronomy is exoplanets, planets around other stars. So that's my chosen specialty, where I focus. So when I consider how many exoplanets there are, when I learned about this, and starting in actually way up in 1988, when the first one was announced, I felt that, guys like Meyer, I don't want to say that the guy is a total lunatic. What I do want to say is he's caught up in the drama, and he's caught up in the adulation and the
celebrity.
Right. Yes, he has a celebrity status complex, I think. He may have actually seen something in his life at one point. He might have. But when the gravy train stopped, he had to keep it going somehow. So he took screen captures from a Dean Martin special and took the girls and called them aliens, and hoped no one would catch him. They did, and he had other explanations for it. He built a UFO called the Wedding Cake UFO. In my opinion, out of the base of it's literally the top of one of the storage barrels from his barn. And I have a photo of the storage barrels in his barn, and the top cover is identical to the bottom of the Wedding Cake UFO, which gave me a scale for the UFO. Then he has a photo of that Wedding Cake UFO in front of his house. And if you ever try to if you go outside and take a photo of your car in your driveway, okay, in front of your house, what are the chances that the car will be in focus and the house won't be? They're really slim, because you have to get far enough away from the car to put it all in the field of view. If you take a photo with a telephoto lens, then you can get that effect easily. But that's not what Billy was using. He took a regular little camera, took the picture, and the house should have been in perfect focus as well as the UFO, and it was not. And that told me that what I was looking at was consistent. That's a favorite word of mine, consistent. It's not a pronouncement, it's a consistency. It was consistent with this object being the size of the top of a utility barrel as a base scale. And so even that, I could not, I just couldn't deal with it. And if you looked at the UFO, the aliens must have been really bad assemblers, because the little round things going all the way around this Wedding Cake UFO were not in a perfectly straight line. They were kind of off a little bit.
I noticed that too.
You noticed that too, right?
Well, you go back, when you first look at it, because it's crisp and clear and it's in focus, and it's in the it's in the front of the photograph, so it dominates your vision and what you're looking at, and so it's impressive. But you go back and you just really, really look at this, and I noticed that the Christmas ornaments, or whatever he used for that, were not perfect. Now, if you're going to build some interstellar spacecraft, right, I'm assuming your Christmas balls are going to be in alignment. If it was at full scale, if this thing was 60 foot in diameter, then the alignment of that stuff is really, but if it's really, really small and the alignment is off by just a little bit, fractions of an inch, it's going to be really apparent in the photograph, and that's exactly what we were seeing there.
Yeah, or if you're an older guy that wears reading glasses and you try to assemble something
with one arm.
Okay, and that's the thing that people always say. He has one arm. How could he possibly hoax this stuff? And I go, seriously? Are you kidding me? I mean, just over 2 years ago, Jimmy, I was quadriplegic and I was blind. Those are facts, okay? I had to have surgery to save my life, and there was a clot that got away from the surgeon and went to the brain, and I had 6 strokes on the operating table. I was a quadriplegic and I was blind. I figured I'll never do models again. I figured I'll never be able to go do talks again. Nothing worked. All right. Well, it took a couple of months of really intensive rehabilitation, and I learned something. I learned that no matter what happens, you'll figure out a way to do something. How do I know? Because I had to do it.
Right.
You know, my legs didn't work, but my arms started to work. So I said, okay, I'm happy. I'm not a quadriplegic. I'm a paraplegic. Yay.
Right,
I was literally little victories, right?
Of course.
Little victories. And then, you know, and you get to the point where you feel sorry for yourself. Oh, I can't do this. I can't do that. And Billy's thinking is probably, I have one arm, so they'll never expect that I could do this, but I know how to do this. I just work slower. And I'll just use, I have utility items that will help me hold things. I mean, I was planning that in my head for how I was going to continue making models. And I had it all worked out. That, you know, if my right arm came back first, my left arm hadn't, I said, okay, if I get my right arm, I don't care about the left arm. I can live with this, and I can figure out ways to make up, you know, hold things in place so I can do special, you know, gluing and stuff. I can do that. All right. Now you look at what he assembles in his spacecraft, for instance, and you see Billy Meyer, a one-armed guy, probably using some type of helpful items to help him steady things to glue them on. And as we saw, he didn't get it perfectly right, as expected. And it's okay, you know. I mean, he opened your eyes, he opened a lot of people's eyes, but then he took it down a path that just was not good. You know what I mean?
The other part with Billy that for me is I don't get how the publishers of those books, of which were extreme and they were selling lots, chose to ignore the other part of it, which was investigating this, and are we putting out stuff that we can stand behind, and it goes to the television productions that were going on and everything else. Everybody just wanted to turn the other way. Why do you think that was? Is it just because it was a money thing?
You know, I was going to tell you. You answered your question while phrasing your question. You said all the books were out there and they were selling like hotcakes, basically, and that's it. You got to stop right there but that's the reason. The dollar and money in an industry where people know that they're hot today and cold tomorrow, perhaps they got to get it while they can. You know, that kind of thing is out there. That kind of mentality is out there in this arena. I could care less. You know, for me, I could care less. You know, I don't care who's saying what I say, as long as it's being said. You know, but the thing is, when you look at publishers and people that do TV shows, they're looking for, when a guy says, hey, I want to put you on a TV show, here's what they're really saying. I think you can draw in people to bring in ratings to have our advertisers buy space because we'll be good for the clientele. We'll get lots of ad dollars out of you. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
You know, now I'm in the TV and film industry, you know, obviously, with Doug, and you know, this is what happens, and this is actually particularly one of the reasons why, you know, Doug is no longer directly in the film industry. He doesn't want to do it anymore because of this. Does his own thing, and we have our own little skunk works that we're working on up there. But the point is that it's all about advertising dollars. It's all about bringing in money. It's all about driving revenue. The talent is secondary.
Yeah.
All they care about is he a draw? What's his name? I don't care. Is he a draw? He is? Okay, put him on.
Wow.
And that's at the top what they think, right?
Yeah.
Down at the bottom, you're thinking, wow, I got a great opportunity. And you do. When you get the interface with people, real people, you know? And I like interfacing with real people and hearing real conversation, doing real talking, real investigation. You know, I don't like to fake it. I never faked it. Okay, that was a lie. I just had to back up. For a National Geographic special, I did create a hoax. And I'm admitting that on your channel. However, it was part of the show. I created the hoax so that I could show that upcoming technology could fool people into thinking they were UFOs. And this was when drones were just becoming an item. We actually made one and created one here and put lights all over it, flew it in the winter sky. It was surrounded by snow. It looked like a UFO coming in for a landing. It got all kinds of people crazy at a local mall. And there was a film crew out in the parking lot filming people's reactions all over the place, sometimes surreptitiously. And it was just as expected. wow, it's aliens. Oh no, look what's happening. This is crazy. And then some people said, oh, it's from the hobby shop. They're flying some new kind of toy. But the operative word was new. They knew that they were knowledgeable enough to know that something new was coming. Most people aren't. So we have to be aware that new technology can fool us too. So there's that aspect of it too. So I did lie when I said I don't hoax things. I do for a purpose, but only for that. And I've only done it once.
Do you think you could? I want to get on to Rex Heflin here, so we're going to do that next. But do you think you could? I think you could. But could you fool us? I mean, fool your friends, fool the pros out there. Could you put together either an image or a video that would absolutely fool everybody at MUFON, everybody, and convince?
You know what? I've actually thought about that. I've thought about whether my background is strong enough that I would actually be able to fool myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if I gave an image I created to somebody else, had them do something on it that I didn't see, and then it gets resubmitted to me in a different context, would I actually recognize it as my work? Would I recognize it as something that I've done? And I'm happy to say that I'm not sure I could. I mean, I'm not sure I'd recognize it as my own. However, I tend to be able to recognize some CG stuff, not always. You sent me a photo to analyze near Mount Adams where there were these birds in the sky.
Yep.
It appeared to be birds.
Yep.
And the first thing I did was I put it through an ELA process, and I noticed that the ELA process they looked relatively like the other things in the frame. So the ELA didn't give me information. It didn't say fake or real. It just was sort of a neutral finding. So and there's a reason for that has to do with the way the picture was stored. But that said, I'm not infallible. I can make mistakes, and I'm happy to make mistakes as long as I learn from them. So can I fool myself? Could I actually make a picture that someone else out there doing the stuff I do could be fooled by? Yeah, I could, but it won't last, because if they're tenacious like I am, then they'll keep coming back at it and try to see, why did this fool me? Is this real? And then they might find the chink in my armor that I used for that particular image or video. And I make these things, here's the other thing too, I'll just tell you real fast. When I get a case, I look at the image or I look at the video. The first thing I think about is, if I were to create that, how would I do it? And then I do it.
Right.
I recreate it.
Right.
I have recreated imagery that I've done where I got an image of this blue orb thing that someone submitted to MUFON. And I looked at it and I recognized the internal reflection inside. And I said, I think I know what this is. I went into my little secret laboratory here, otherwise known as my special effects shop. Pulled out a few things, attached a few things, got out a breadboard, wired up a quick circuit, and I took a photograph of a blue LED from the top at various brightnesses. And what I noticed was I got not just close, but I got exactly the same result as the submitted photo. So I basically said, I believe it's probably likely a hoax. I don't say it is. I say likely a hoax, because this is almost identical to a blue LED. And you can even see around the outside the little flange at the bottom of the LED where the stop that holds it in place when you push it into a hole of its size.
Right.
And I said that was even there in the image very, very faintly. And so
the hole from the breadboard was there in the image?
Well,
that's funny.
No, not the hole from the breadboard. The actual little flange around the base of the LED.
Oh,
which
yes.
is like the stop. When you put it into a hole, that keeps it from coming through.
Right.
And that was there, but very faintly. But I didn't make any judgments on it until I actually saw the results. So when I see something, I try to recreate it. Now, if I can't recreate it, it doesn't mean that it's real. It doesn't mean that it can't be recreated. It just means that I couldn't do it. And it's only a first step for me to try and kind of get into the spirit of what that image might show, or the video of what that image might show. And that kind of led me into, and this I started that years ago, and that kind of led me into taking my model making business kind of more into the visual effects realm, because I learned, very quickly how to recreate certain effects just with light, or just with a difference in materials, and just with paint and so forth like that. So I ended up being able to alter my personal business, right? I did alter my personal business through UFO investigation and trying to recreate things. I just have a mind I have to disassemble a sighting, and I love it when I don't understand what I'm seeing. I absolutely love when I don't understand what I'm seeing. And if I decipher it and then I'm told, yeah, that's what it was, then I feel vindicated and sad at the same time. It's really a strange double-edged sword, Jimmy, I'm telling you.
Well, I want to tell everybody what happened. So I sent Mark a shot of that Rita had took of me standing in front of Mount Adams, and above me you can clearly see a bird off to the right. It's a bird, and then off in the other direction above me to the left was something that was a little more square and horizontal and squared off. And Rita was like, "What do you think this is?" I said, "You know what? Hold on. I'm going to send this to Mark." So I sent it to Mark. I don't give him any information. I said, "What do you think?" That he hits me back, "It's a blood." So that picture did not get published. There was no crazy. It was something that was there that looked a little strange, but we sent it to you.
I'm sorry. I can tell you though why it had that little squarish look, and I don't think I told you that at the time. It was a very small image, a very small object next to the bigger object. Remember that?
Yes, right.
It was smaller. Well, sometimes the way JPEG files get compressed, all right, because all JPEGs they're what's called lossy compression. They lose data in order to compress and make them more reasonable sized. And we take a video. Each frame of the video is also similarly compressed with the algorithm. So you don't ever get a true facsimile of what actually transpired. You only get a video that's been modified, usually by the system that takes it to compress it. So let's stick with the image and say the image. Well, when the JPEG file has a compression algorithm that gets activated on the tiniest of pixels, then it changes the look, and you can actually get, when you zoom in on it, you can actually see that some of the pixels look much more square. I'm sorry, not the pixels. Some of the image looks more square than it may have, because the JPEG algorithm is actually making judgments on what the value has to be. So if it's somewhat straight but not quite straight, and it doesn't line up right with the pixels, then the JPEG compression algorithm is going to actually make it look a little different. It might make it more linear than it was. And nowhere is that more evident when people send me images of objects they take pictures of, and they say, but if you zoom in really far, then you can see these creatures and they're driving. Well, if you zoom in really far, you see the JPEG compression algorithm results and how it's handling the picture. And then pareidolia takes over. Pareidolia, right, of course, is trying to see a familiar pattern amongst an unfamiliar pattern. And when pareidolia takes over, then that's when people see bunnies in clouds. That's when people see, a face on Mars. Okay, that's when people see things that may not be there. Certainly no rabbits in the clouds or things like that. But this is the whole point. We have to fight the human mind. Okay, so to be an analyst like this, you have to understand how the human mind works and how our brain functions with data we don't understand. So it's almost like you can't just know cameras. You can't just know astronomy. You have to know about this stuff too. You have to know about earth science. You have to know about geology. You have to know about all the things that can cause strange lights geologically. You have to understand how the earth works, so you can understand how light works, how the sun works. And trust me, when I get people ranting at me that the earth is flat, okay, and I know there's a lot of people out there that are doing this and saying this nowadays, and I swear I think it's because they just want trouble. I think they just want to be contrary.
Yeah, they know the earth is round. They just want a good debate.
Right? We have to think they do, right? But there's guys out there that I don't think they really think the earth is round. And it's like, oh, man, how did science fail this person so miserably?
Oh, man, I don't know how that took traction. I really don't. I'm still fascinated with that. We've got 2.5 minutes. Rex Heflin, his photographs, those Polaroids, to me, are some of the most extraordinary on planet Earth ever. I think they're some of the most impressive images. Can you give me the 2.5 minute Marc D'Antonio version of the Rex Heflin photographs when you see them?
Yeah, when I looked at the Rex Heflin photos, and just so you know, I mean, historic data to me is great, and I do analyze it, I do look at it. But of course, with Doug, we're focusing on the future and trying to catch the skid marks of an alien race using advanced propulsion techniques. That's what we call it, skid marks. But every 15-year-old kid loves us.
Right.
So when I look at Rex Heflin's photos, and I looked at them, you got to remember, we're only looking at digital copies of some prints that were originally prints, so we don't really have good data. The photos weren't taken with a digital camera; they were taken with a film camera. So we can't do the work on them that we might expect to be able to do. But nevertheless, when I look at the photos, the thing with the Rex Heflin photos that jumped out at me was that I was trying to look at the day. What was the day like? The day looked like it was bright and sunny, but it also looked hazy. Now, that could have been the film quality.
Polaroid, black and white.
Yeah, it could have been the film quality, quality of film, and how it made that look. So we don't really know what the day was actually, but it looked like a hazy day. To that end, I would have expected to see that the UFO object would, whether it was created by a film artifact or else, weather artifact, I would have expected the UFO to actually be a little less sharp and clear. I would have expected it, in fact, to be more fuzzed out, hazed out a little bit. Again, either by the film quality or by the day. Now, I'm not saying they were faked photos in terms of, cut and paste. I'm certainly not saying that. So, for me, the jury is out on Heflin. And I'll tell you that I still consider it a historic case of importance. And the reason I do is because I'm actually creating what's called a History Makers collection of UFOs. And I have the first three, and I have the S-51, the Area 51 UFO, the S-51 UFO. Right. I have Rex Heflin, and I have the Belgian Triangle.
Right.
Now, even though we know that everybody has explanations for what all three of those may very well be or are, you have to consider that people have they're very adamant about their opinions sometimes. Well, I have Rex Heflin as one of the history makers. And the reason is because of the fact that Rex Heflin, all right, in that photo, he set a pattern for the future. The pattern was, get out your camera, carry your camera with you, take pictures. And that started it all, didn't it?
Yeah, it's certainly right. Yeah.
Right? And so to that end, whether it's artificial or created, I have to say it belongs as a history maker. And the jury is still out for me on that in terms of whether it's real.
Our guest tonight, Marc D'Antonio. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. When we come back, I'm going to do Dragonfly drones. That's right. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. More with Marc right after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRAradio.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Marc D'Antonio. Yeah, man. He is the CGI pro. He's the model builder. He's the photo analyst. He's the guy. Also, exoplanets. We didn't get into that. Astronomy. He manages his own observatory. How are you going to, Mark, how are you going to pack that up and just move it to Arizona? How does that happen?
Well, the way it happens, Jimmy, is really cool. By the way, I got to say, I really love the music. You know, your music is just phenomenal. I mean, that's the kind of music I like to play. You know, I play electric guitar, and I love just like playing blues riffs and just going to town, just letting it all happen. I just love that. That's good stuff.
That's a guy named Doug Aldrich.
I love it.
Yeah, Doug Aldrich. He's amazing. But how do you pack up an observatory?
Well, the building is a prefab building that I bought from Canada, and it had some problems when it got here. A few parts were broken and so forth, but I wanted to have a building, so I had to have a place for it. So having a place for it's not a big deal. Having a foundation for it, the foundation is temporary. The whole observatory building is sitting on industrial packing, shipping pallets, okay? And then there's plywood over that, and then a flooring material, and then a hole in the center, and they got a big steel pier. And the only thing that's going to be left on the ground when this thing moves, and I'll tell you how that happened, is a little concrete pad that the pier is bolted to. And that's actually a vertical 48-inch concrete pier that goes all the way down to the ground.
Right.
So I have a backhoe. I could just pull it out with a tractor if I had to, if the new owner wants it out. But the bottom line is, because it's a prefab building, the entire building disassembled, you ready for this? It'll fit in a compact car. I'm not
really?
kidding. It nests, the parts all nest together. All right? But here's the truth. In no way am I ever going to take this thing apart again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to transport it in prefabricated sections. Okay? If I can send the dome in 2 halves, I'm gonna, because it was a real pain putting it together.
Right.
Now I built it alone, and as such, it took me about 4 days to assemble it all. All right. I dug the hole, poured the concrete, and put a solid steel pier that I had made at an industrial park up the street, and then put the telescope on it. So I have about 350 pounds worth of instrument above the floor, and it can't get loose on you, or it'll kill you. So you have to be careful. And the way it gets packed up is I just do it in reverse order. I take the telescope off, put it in its packing box, which I kept. I take the pier out, and you can't hurt that. So you could drag it behind the vehicle if you're driving down the highway, and it'll not get hurt. It's steel. It's 150 pounds right there. And then the foundation is in 2 sections, the flooring. So you just basically unscrew the top plywood. You fold the things in half, take apart the sections as much as you want to for the building, stick it in a pod, basically, and have it shipped. And then do the same thing in reverse when you get there in Arizona. And I'm looking for land that I can put this on. It's going to be very, very dark sky, and it's going to be an automated facility. So right now, as it stands, I control the entire telescope and the camera using an iPad. All right?
Yeah.
The only thing that I can't do is move the dome. And that automation gear is a few $100 more. It stands between me and being able to do that as well. And then once that's done, I'm going to be able to get this online so that I can log into it from wherever I am, or people who are part of the network can log into it from wherever they are and take photos of any length, any design, anything they want to do, anywhere in the sky that's visible. And that's the idea. And there's things like moisture sensors you can get so that if it gets too humid, you can automatically close down the dome, cover up the telescope, close down the dome. It'll do it by itself. You can just have that happen. So that's how you do it. It's a whole process. But I've never been under a fully dark sky in my life, except when I was out on the ocean. We used to go to Maine every summer, and I would go out on my cousin's lobster boat or on his trawler, and I'd run the radar for him or whatever. I'd help him out, me, Mr. Techie Nerd. And then I would actually go outside to get rid of my seasickness. We'll leave it at that. And then I'd look up, and I'd see this beautiful sky. And it was so beautiful, so dark, that you could see the clouds as dark against the stars. Dark clouds against the stars. I've never seen that except up there.
I'll tell you what, at ECETI 2 weeks ago when we were up there.
Near Mount Adams?
Yeah, near Mount Adams, where it's 2 hours to the next city, right? I mean, awesome. As black as... And you look up and you're looking at the stars and the Milky Way and the clouds of stars, right? And the color of everything. It is as cinematic and as 3D and as breathtaking as you can imagine.
Isn't it, though?
Yeah, because here in Los Angeles, which has got to be the most light-polluted place on planet Earth, right?
It probably is.
No
next
question.
to Shanghai.
Yes, next to Shanghai, right? Or Hong Kong or something.
Yeah.
But where we don't have, we got a couple of stars, right? But it's amazing. Yeah. It's the same sky, right? It's the same sky. Yeah. And you go to some place like ECETI or Joshua Tree where you're just away from the light pollution and you look up and it's just breathtaking. And it's the same sky that we would have here, but it's just all revealed to you. It's just incredible.
That's right.
Now
let me just say one last little thing here before you do this. I just got to tell you, when you saw those stars for the first time ever, tell me that you were able to breathe normally for like a few minutes.
Oh, no, you can't.
Actually
No,
had to
you
catch
can't.
your breath.
No, you can't. You can't. I remember we went up one time. This was a few years ago, and we went up into the mountains in Joshua Tree, and up to this house where we're away from and I looked up, and the Milky Way streaking across the sky where you have black on both sides of it, right? And you just and the purples and the reds and the stars, and it's just like, holy crap. And all you want to do is stare at it. Right. That's I can only think about this, Mark, and this is the reality of the world we live in. But let's go back 5,000 years, right? 5,000 years, 3,000 BC, and you're anywhere on planet Earth. You know what your 4K television was? The sky.
The sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And can you imagine what they were seeing when there was zero light pollution? I mean, when it was night, it was black, right?
Right.
And just imagine that, today where we have to go to Argentina or go to Chile or, go to these crazy places on the top of a mountain to avoid all the magnetics and the EM and cell phone interference, as well as the light pollution, right? You want to get away from everything.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do today, because the light pollution is everywhere, no matter where you go. But I often think about that. And now I want to discuss the Dragonfly drones. And when we get to the break, we're going to go exoplanets after the break. But let's discuss the Dragonfly drones. My thing was back when your analysis was done, and I was getting angry with you, was that
I love it. I'm sorry. I'm smiling.
I know you are. I know you are.
This is not an uncommon reaction, and but go for it.
Well,
level me. Go right ahead. Level me. I'm all right with it.
No. Because I don't know, and probably you don't know either. But let's go with this. Linda Moulton Howe told me on this show and in private that she was sent the negatives, that they were shot on 35 millimeter film. Your analysis was that it was CG and creative illustrations done with a computer. We can't have both, can we?
Yes.
Okay, explain.
Okay. The photographs indeed were film photographs. However, those photographs were actually those photographs had a digital insert put in. That is to say, a composite was made. And
on film, on 35 millimeter film.
Well, actually, when I looked at that Dragonfly drone, all right, what I was looking at was I called it The Devil Was in the Dark. Actually, that was kind of the title of my talk I did on this actually years ago. And it was called The Devil's in the Dark. And that's because when you looked in the dark shadows of this object, you could see that the shadows were not composed of smooth light that grades off to darkness, for instance, in the shadow. It was composed of ever decreasing in brightness donuts that were all overlaying each other. And now that I recognized as a digital shadowing technique in digital CG. So however Linda said she got those images, okay, and they were claimed to have been taken on 35 millimeter film or whatever with negatives. I think that what she probably got was just something that was rephotographed, all right, and from a display. And it's not uncommon. It's easy to do. And in fact, people often will rephotograph the finished product to hide the artifacts, all right. And the trouble is that when you look into the shadows on this object, all the objects, every one of these showed it. the shadows were wrong. And I kept saying, cameras don't work this way. Light doesn't work this way. And I kept saying that to people. And they said, well, what do you mean? And I'll tell you. There's one photo where you're looking straight up, and you got telephone pole wires that are going overhead, and you see this beyond the wires. It's a very clever shot, right?
Right.
The sun is just out of frame. It's just out of frame to the right. And the sky is whitish blue, okay? The object is seen on the bottom in all clarity. It's fully visible, fully clear. In other words, the person doing this says, okay, there'll be some reflected light up underneath. Awesome, it'll look real. And so they went that way. What they didn't take into account, though, is that the camera is not going to see the object when it does its light metering. It's going to see the sky and the sun, which was just outside the view. And it was going to make that shot more of a silhouette. But it wasn't. And the fact that it wasn't, and the sky was still whitish blue, showed that there was a problem there. There were two types of exposures done. One to show the bottom of this craft, which was in shadow, very clearly, and the other to keep the sky nice and blue in the other areas of the shot. And that's not how cameras work. You know, looking at the reflections of light off the wires and everything, those, they weren't right. It was all wrong. And that's actually that was the foundational piece in what cinched it for me. The shadows were wrong, obviously, with the process that they use to create shadows among them. It's called global illumination. But there's radiosity, which is a calculation, an algorithm that goes through every single pixel and determines what the value is going to be based on a sample size that you provide. And if that sample size is too big or too small, you're going to get artifacts, basically. And they had artifacts. So it says to me that they wanted to rush this out, and they didn't want to take the time to actually get their global illumination right. And so that's what they got. And that's what they presented, and they got caught. Now, as far as the way the light was on the drone, like I said, from underneath, that showed me that they didn't understand, as hoaxers, how the camera works. Because if they did it right, like I said, you would not have seen all that detail and that little clever writing on the bottom of one of the things. And in my, I did a lecture on this drone in San Jose back in 2008. And for my lecture, I recreated the drone live in front of the audience. I showed it to them, and I recreated it from the start. I showed them what the tools were in the 3D products at the time that could make the shapes we saw, like those nice spindly things and the circular donut torus for the center and those long extensions out of it. They were surprised to see that the entire drone took about 5 minutes to make.
I remember that, and let me just say this.
Sure.
Although your side of it and your creation of it was really cool, and I can only imagine, the talent that was behind that. But it was 1/100th of the detail that was here. And
absolutely.
Right? And so
they had time to play with it. They had time to make it. I was doing it in front of a class.
Right,
so
right.
I didn't have the time to detail it, and I made that very clear during the talk, actually. I said, look, I haven't taken the time to detail it like they did. They've had all the time in the world to detail it.
Right. I wanted you to convince me. You never pushed me over the fence, though. I wanted you to. Trust me, I did. But there's one other aspect to this that I deal with when I look at all images. And pretty much just like you, 99.999, I look at it and I go, yeah, whatever, right? I can tell immediately out of the gate. I depend on my eyes. With the dragonfly drone images, my eyes are cool with it. They are. The shot that you were talking about above the telephone pole, and when I read all of your analysis on it, I'm going back and I'm blowing it up, and I'm reading what you're saying, and I'm going back to the photograph. What you were saying to me, I was seeing the opposite. I was seeing the correct reflection of the sun. I was seeing the correct degrading. I was seeing the Dragonfly drone as the right color in the background. There was one shot, if I remember correctly, one leg of the drone is going off behind the telephone pole, and I was seeing the exact same shading and shadows there. To me, to my eyes, Mark, I was truly being fooled. My eyes never said, "Okay, this is not real." And that's where, and I wanted your analysis and what I was seeing in the photographs. I went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I was more on the side of the photograph than I was on your analysis. And
that's fair.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with that. But and I think that if we sat down in a room at a conference somewhere and we actually did do a full all-out reanalysis together, you and I. You bring a crowd of people if you want to, and we would just talk about it.
Right.
I could probably convince you. Okay, I could probably convince you, and the reason is because I can talk to you and specifically about how the camera would take a picture like this, and we would do it. We would actually recreate it with a camera right there, and we would set the light meter to the same way that they had their light meter, and we would actually recreate the images to show you how the contrast wasn't right for the photo. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing or anything like that. It just means that you, in my view, you probably have never used a camera this way to actually.
Oh no, no doubt. No,
to do that. So
yeah,
I've done it because I've been called upon to analyze photos, and what I said was, well, if I'm going to be analyzing photos, I darn well better know about making mistakes. And throughout my history taking photos, I actually tallied them up. I mean, I have no life. I mean, I counted the number of photos I've taken in my life, and I've gotten close to just over 1 million photos I actually have taken.
Right.
Can you believe that?
Right.
Okay. Now, obviously, the digital world helped bump that number up, but it never became more clear than when I went on a cruise to Bermuda. So a couple of years ago, I actually did have a life for a week. On that cruise, on the way back from the cruise, I'm taking a picture of the sky out on the deck because that's what I do. I'm crazy. I got to be outside with the camera all the time. I took a picture and I heard this loud explosion. Boom! It was the camera exploding inside. I blew it up. I blew the camera up, and this was a nice Nikon camera. And the shutter system inside just said, "I'm done. I can't take any more photos." And it just obliterated itself, and I heard all these little tiny pieces of metal inside shaking around. Like, what did I just do? It's like blowing the transmission on your car and then hearing a jingle of stuff inside your car. It's like, ugh, that was horrible. And I realized I am just taking so many pictures. I just blew up my professional Nikon camera.
Right.
So I had to go and pay hundreds of dollars to get that repaired. And now it's in the closet because I have another camera that I'm gonna, that I got without a shutter, so that I no longer have a mechanical issue with that. So now the camera I use no longer has that problem. And by the way, that's a camera I think you'd want because it goes sensitivity from 50 to 400,000 ISO. Okay, and it turns night into day, and it gives you full color, like ambient light intensification. I mean, it's a standard camera. I use it for my astronomy live stream, so we see faint objects in 2 seconds that would otherwise take 5 minutes to capture.
Yeah, right,
I mean,
right. Do you
beautiful.
need you have to have a tripod for that, though, for sure. It's got to be perfectly still.
That's the point. With a camera that has that kind of speed,
right?
Yeah, for 1 or 2 seconds, you're absolutely right. Sorry.
Yeah.
But for 1 or 2 seconds, though, you will. But you can take a picture at a 60th, all right, at 256,000, and still have a fairly illuminated scene.
Wow.
And you go, wow, that's pretty cool. Taking a snapshot at night and getting it to be focused, that's crazy.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's where the technology is going, Jim. And for me, I think that this is a camera everybody needs. I really do think so. And on our live streams, I've banded together with Bill New York Skywatcher and P&K Space Imaging and me, and we have a website called astroimaginglive.com. You can see our streams all the time. You can pick up any one you want, go into one, talk to us in the chats, and this, two of us have these cameras, and now we got to try and convince the third one to get the camera so they can actually do these cool things too. Because, this is where it's going, man. This is where it's going. This is astronomy for the masses, and this is being able to see into the dark. Because that's all we're doing as humans, trying to peer in the dark all the time. That's what we're trying to do, like we did in the caves when we were in caves, peering out in the dark.
Before we hit this break, there's one other thing about the Dragonfly drones that I want to address too, and that is Carrot and the Carrot documents. And
I was going to ask about that too if you didn't.
Right, and all of the images of those objects that are there, and the code, if you will, the software that was involved allegedly with the script that was on the outside of these that again allegedly caused allowed the anti-gravity to happen. Now, if this is a hoax, it's definitely way elaborate. And back then, this kind of work before, now we're back like before PageMaker, right? We're dealing with some old ways to do to writing, reproduction, and illustration that was very complex and very technical to do before software was even around.
Well, yes and no, and I'll tell you why. When we look at the Carrot, there was a lot of photos with that Carrot with the Carrot documents. One of them purported to show an object with some anti-gravity in effect, with some objects around it. And when I analyzed that, I realized, oh wow, this is just white room CG. Now, what that means is when we want to show an object in CG and we want to get a good idea of its texture and how it looks, we have something called a white room that we create. It's an artificial room. It's basically, think of it as being taking an object you want to photograph and putting it inside a big sphere that's white. And you're in there with the camera taking a picture of it. Okay? That's kind of the basis for the white room. And I recognize white room global illumination going on there. And I thought, what they did, the photo they're showing, would actually be very hard to achieve in actuality. There would always be some kind of secondary reflection. There would be some kind of unevenness to the light in the photo. There wasn't. So when I looked at it, I thought, this is a white room. And so, of course, I proceeded to make a white room in my digital CG project. I had a state-of-the-art product for the day that I was using as well, or else, who am I to make these kind of pronouncements? I'm not going to make a pronouncement about it if I don't understand the technology as fully as I could. So I had one, and I did that work. I still do that work every month. I do CG work all the time for people as a side process to what I do. And this was a clear white room photo. White room CG. It's called a CG studio, basically. And we all have them. We all make these particular setups with lights, and then we actually have these reflectors, like the umbrella, the photographer's silvered umbrella that reflects the light back onto the face to give like a backlight, so it's not a stark, sharp contrast image. Okay, things like that. But you do that in the CG world as well, and as long as you manage the light properly and you use this global illumination process, then you will actually get a very nice, very rounded, very, very real, undetectable from being real object. And that's the thing. I can show you some that I've made that, you'll think, for instance, that this little plastic toy submarine that I did is a photograph, but it's actually not. I just made sure that the plastic reflected light the way it really does, So
we got to take a break, right? Yeah, we got to take a break right here, Mark, and we'll pick this up when we come back. Got questions about the moon landing too, and you've got a telescope. Yeah, we'll do that when we come back. Our guest tonight, Marc D'Antonio. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
And you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to
So you went to dinner last night, you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy, spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. GetTheT.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. GetTheT.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of ugh. We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Marc D'Antonio. This portion of the broadcast is brought to you by Life Change Tea. Let's go right now. Go to the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Takes you to GetTheT.com. Just mention Fader, Fader, either online or over the phone when you order, and you will get yourself free shipping. And they've got a special right now on the tea this month. So go and check that out on the specials page. Our guest tonight, Marc D'Antonio. Now, Marc, before we move on to exoplanets, we were just talking about the Dragonfly drones and Carrot. The one thing, first off, I'm just convinced my eyes say that there was something magical captured here. I'm not sure what it is. That's my opinion. But the other thing for me is nobody's been busted in this hoax. You would have thought that somebody would have called, some disgruntled girlfriend, my boyfriend did this in his bedroom. We have that. Plus, these apparently were taken at different sections around the country. This didn't happen just at once. It happened over a length of time. And the Carrot aspect of it seemed to be like a little bit separate and wasn't actually part of the Dragonfly drones until much later. So why hasn't somebody been busted in this hoax, or have you gotten close to that?
No, I think that the reason that nobody's been busted is because it didn't do what was intended. It didn't actually get enough traction in their hoax world to cause people to lose money on a hoax and thus level a lawsuit or take them to task for it. It was viewed as a silly thing, and no one actually ended up taking it in the vein of, we're going to prosecute, because it wasn't, in my view, it wasn't something worth prosecuting. It was just a hoax, just like we look at hoaxes on YouTube all the time.
But for me, it was different, though. We had pages and pages of well-written documents and typesetting and writing, and of course, then you have the other aspect of somebody was, building these models in CG and creating these series of photographs over the trees, and it wasn't that the telephone pole one was just one of a series of shots. Sure. Very, very, very elaborate and time consuming that would, potentially, especially back then, take a year or two to put this entire thing together. Why do it? Because at the end of the day, if you're successful in getting 2 million people to think that this thing was coming in over the pine trees in Lake Tahoe, okay, or you were successful in getting enough people to believe that this carrot program was real, you get a personal satisfaction for that. Why do hoaxers do anything that they do? It's hard to say. I don't know what mental imbalance, for instance, a person has to reach before they decide, I'm going to do hoaxing. Ask Billy Meyer. When did he decide to do the hoaxing part of this? And when did he decide that he had to? Okay, and this may also be controversial for some of your folks, but when did Stan Romanek decide that he had to start faking things to make it look real? Did he have a real experience? Everything that he did in recent years tends to cast doubt on it now. I caught him flinging a USB drive at his head. I caught him flinging a pen at his head when he was doing a Skype interview with an Australian guy, for instance. And I caught him preparing a voice machine when he was on a radio show with Alejandro Rojas. And I heard it saying, you better really. And I was like, what's that? And then 9 minutes later, I found out, because while Alejandro was talking, I heard, you better really learn to keep your mouth shut. And I went, oh, I can't believe it. He was preparing that while Alejandro was doing a public service announcement, and he thought his mic was off. And so I published that. I published the other thing I saw. I wasn't the only one that found these things. Right. A lot of people found these things. So why do people do that? Why do they damage their credibility? Why do they feel the need to keep something rolling? Why can't we just say, you might have seen an alien, okay? But why do you reach a point where you then have to fake it? What drives someone to that point? That's very interesting to me. I'd like to know what drove Billy Meyer to that point. I'd like to know what drove Stan to that point, And sometimes people just do it for fun, and then it gets traction, and then you got to stick to it because, oh boy, now they found that hole. I better keep this story up, because they found out it was that it's fake, but then it gained traction. No, it's a nationwide story. Yeah, all the UFOs over my barn. Yeah, oh boy. Well,
now you're stuck with it.
Yeah, well, and what? Okay, so talking about hoaxes, then we have Apollo. Now, as you have looked at all of this photo analysis and video analysis over the years, what do you think about that? First off, did we go to the moon?
I actually do believe it. In fact, on NASA's Unexplained files, I can't remember, I think it's season 1 or 2, they tasked me with saying, can you show us why the people that say we didn't go to the moon are wrong? And I said, I can give you my evidence, yes. And that took me down a path where I literally created lunar soil from studying it and studying its actual properties, the static properties, its electric properties, and its glassy properties. I actually recreated lunar soil, and it took me about a couple of months to actually recreate a vat of it. And when I did, it did all the same clumping and everything, and so I was able to show how lunar soil acts, for one thing. And because there are a lot of things on the moon that people say, look, this is an arched, bridge over a canyon. It's amazing, And then I showed with my lunar soil setup how that was actually two valleys next to each other, and the central ridge between them was just illuminated by a low-angle sun. And because of the lack of, HDRI photography in those days, we had very sharp contrasts between the moon and the shadows. And the shadows were lost. There was nothing in the shadows to see. So there was no data there to show that it was actually a valley. So it's all supposition.
Well,
so,
what about you have a very powerful telescope, right?
Yes.
Can you see the lunar lander with your telescope?
No, and the Hubble telescope couldn't even do it either. And the reason for that is because it's a matter of scale. The Hubble telescope, for instance, let's take that. Sees things in the pixel range, when you look at. But when you look at the moon landing sites, the site of a lunar landing would fall well within the range of a single pixel. And, in other words, a single pixel would show much of that landing site at this distance and scale. So it's not practical or possible to show the lunar landing sites with the most powerful telescopes we have at the moment. We do, however, see the landing sites in all clarity with the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. And, your listeners and you, in fact, could go to look up the LRO, Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter Quick Map. All one word, LRO Quick Map. And there's an image of the moon that comes up, and you're free to go navigating, and you can just scroll in with the mouse right down to 5 meters per pixel of scale in many places. So when you scroll into the Apollo landing sites, you see the trails made by the lunar rovers. You see the descent stage. You see the ALSEP experiments on the moon. You actually see the objects that were said to be there all along. And that's the thing that I think is really important. As we get better technology, we can do this. Now, people are always going to say, well, that's just all fake data. To what end? To what end?
I understand.
There's no end game here.
But I understand that part of it. But what I'm confused, I have 100 things I could list right now where I have issues with. But and I'm not, let me say this. I went through, just like you, I was a child of the 60s. I had my favorite astronaut. I had, everybody we were all team Apollo. I get that, Gemini, Mercury. I had a million drawings that I did. I was fully engaged. But what I know now as an adult with our technology from back then, with what we have now today, I don't know how the hell we even got there. But that's the truth, too. That was magic. But with Hubble and with the telescopes that we have today, but with Hubble that can see distant galaxies by the bazillion, why can't we have these high-res photographs of the moon? I mean, that would be these extraordinary photographs. Why don't we have that today? I don't get the excuses.
Well, here's the thing. It doesn't matter if we're looking at the moon or at a distant end of the universe. The Hubble only has a certain resolution, no matter what. So the Hubble Space Telescope isn't going to be able to put detail within 1 pixel of its sensor that's there. If it's not there, that goes for galaxies. That goes for Apollo, landers. Okay, on Earth we can't possibly see that because the atmospheric distortion is so bad that we can't even get close. We have to even, the only possible way we could ever do it is from space, and then again, the only possible way we could do it again is in orbit around the moon itself, which is how we had to do it, which is why we see it. So I know that there's a lot of objections. People say, well, the shadows are going the wrong way. Actually, they're not. I actually built a moon. I built a lunar surface here in my shop, and I got a light from the sound stage up at the studio. I put it at the end of the studio, in my studio, and had the light falling on the craters at a low angle, just like with the Apollo missions. And I showed the light in the craters with the astronauts, which I also had, and the lunar module, which I had, full detail. And I actually showed how the light was going all the wrong way. And it was just one light.
So what you just proved, though, is that we could shoot here on Earth, and we didn't actually go to the moon.
Well, I know you think you're clever with that. Okay? And I knew you were going to go down that path.
Right.
And I was ready for you.
Right.
You'll find out. Okay? Because the fact is, yes, we could create very convincing lunar photography, but at the time of Apollo, we didn't have the technology to create what we saw when we saw the astronauts in weightless conditions. We didn't have the ability, for instance, to create the dust flying off their feet on the moon in 1/6 gravity in exactly the right trajectory, distance, and fall rate that would be in 1/6 gravity. And it's not a matter of just going into slow motion. It's a matter of this debris that they kicked with their feet goes up a certain distance on the Earth and falls down. On the moon, it goes up 6 times higher and falls down. And it did that on the moon. It didn't do that on the Earth. And if they recorded it on the Earth and did it on the Earth, look out, okay? It would have been obvious because you would have seen that. And it didn't. It acted just like on the moon. Where could you see that the best? With the lunar rover. When the lunar rover was driving around, it kicked up rooster tails. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Those rooster tails, right? Those rooster tails, no matter how light the material might be, those rooster tails wouldn't exist in the same exact way on the Earth. The trajectory they followed, the fall rate, everything matched 1/6 Earth gravity. There was no technology back then to do that. So, I mean, in a sense, I don't have to go much farther, but I will. When the argument that said we couldn't get out of go into outer space because of the Van Allen radiation belts, and people say that. Actually, that's not true. If that was the case, then we could never have sent any probes out of the Earth's atmosphere. They would have been fried by radiation. But we've landed on Mars several times. We went by Pluto just recently with New Horizons. We've got Cassini at Saturn. We've got Juno at Jupiter. And we landed a little probe on an asteroid from the Rosetta mission. A comet. And we also, have been on Titan with, the Huygens probe. So how could that happen if the radiation wasn't affecting it? And you'll say, oh, well, they'll just shield that. They shielded the craft. Actually, no. They shield them anyway because of cosmic rays, all right? And in one episode of NASA's Unexplained, I actually had to, it might have been What on Earth, I had to actually discuss the fact that astronauts on the way to the moon were seeing flashes of light in their retinas. And no one knew what that was at the time. Well, it turns out they were cosmic rays hitting their retinas. Now, cosmic rays come from all over the universe, and they strike us in the retinas, okay?
Right.
But on the Earth, we're somewhat protected. Out there in space, we're kind of just naked and afraid. And bam, we can get nailed with cosmic rays. So that's what they were seeing, and actually had an experiment where they put a black hood over their heads, and it was a special chamber, and they were made to count all the cosmic rays because nobody knew what that was at the time.
I remember. Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, it was very cool. So we got through the Van Allen belts with no problem. How? Because of the way that Van Allen belts are structured and because of how they're made. The Van Allen belts are made from our magnetosphere, our magnetic field. So that means that these charged particles from the sun that are streaming toward us all the time, including some very highly energetic particles, get trapped sometimes by that magnetic field. Those become the Van Allen radiation belts. And that's the only reason we have them, is because we have a magnetic field. It's the magnetic field doing the trapping and creating the Van Allen belts. Therefore, we look at where the North Pole is and where the South Pole is. Those belts dive right in, and they go down toward the North Pole and go up toward the South Pole. And thus, when they want to leave the Earth orbit, what do? They just set up their trajectory so that they exit Earth environs via the poles.
But
and then
why?
doing
But
Van
why
Allen
would?
belts for minutes, not hours.
Yeah. I understand that. But why would NASA say today, and they have, that when we figure out how to get through the radiation of the Van Allen belt, we'll go back to the moon or we'll go to Mars? it seems a little bit of a paradox or a little bit hypocritical because we've already done that, right?
Well,
I don't get why they would say that today.
I totally agree with that. That statement is probably a misunderstood, not by you, but a misstated restatement of something that NASA said. Okay, because whenever you hear something, and you got to hear the guy say it, and you got to hear what he says it in his words.
I've seen the press conference. I've seen it come out of his mouth, and it's just like, dude, what are you saying?
Well, then I'll see that, and then I'll tell you about it. But
fair enough.
But no, fair enough. Like I said, I'll tell you what I don't know. I have no problem with that because intelligence and intellect is my friend. It's not my enemy, and the only way we're going to leave the planet is by the rigorous application of science, not by people, for instance, that are going to be trying to do other things other than embrace science, because science is the only thing that's going to rescue us. Because the sun's going to die someday, obviously, but that's down the line.
Well, when Bill Clinton, I reference this all the time, when he was on Jimmy Kimmel just a few years ago, when his famous quote for me that blows my mind, he said a lot of interesting things, but the most interesting thing for me was he said, we've discovered 25 exoplanets. So there has to be life out there, right? At 25, here we are. 3-4 years later, now the number is over 3,000, and we're adding to that every single day. We've found a lot of very interesting planets out there, and the number is extraordinary. The software is now to the point that it's the discoveries are easy and they're rapid today. Do you think that we are being visited right now?
I'm going to tell you right up front. I think yes, and I'll tell you why. When I started looking at exoplanets, I figured, okay, all right, the Kepler Space Telescope is turning up quite a number of planets. Now we'd have to find planets that are habitable. Why? Because we're a species that needs to be in a not so hot, not so cold area. That's called the habitable zone around the star. For us, it's 1 AU, astronomical unit, 93 million miles from the sun. Okay, no big deal. But when we look for other planets, it's only natural to look for planets like ours. So we're going to look for other planets around habitable zones like ours. So that if we could live there, maybe we could live there, or maybe that's something that we could survive on. And it's only natural. And another species is going to do the same. Now, if another species is doing the same thing, then they will have found us. And you got to keep in mind, Earth is 4.5 billion years old. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. What does that tell you? That tells you that an awful lot of the universe happened before we even ever showed up.
That's right.
Right. So there could have been a civilization that came and went. We could be a remnant of an ancient civilization for all we know. There's a whole lot of unanswered questions about where we came from. Yes, I understand the fossil record. I certainly do with just a nauseating detail. I understand evolution. I understand the branches of evolution that have occurred. I understand evolutionary dead ends. I understand genetic material and propagation, blah, 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 blah. I understand all that. The trouble is, we still have unanswered questions about who we are, where we came from, where we seated.
Where we're going.
Yeah, where we're going. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there's a lot of planets out there. And, right now, Kepler was only looking at an area in the sky that's the size of your fist outstretched at the end of your hand. Okay, when you stretch your arm out, it was looking in the constellation Cygnus, which, by the way, when it's night, Cygnus is, by around midnight or so, maybe 1 in the morning, Cygnus is directly overhead. Okay? And that was where it was looking. And it found, to date, around 3,800 or so candidates total and 3,300 planets. And a percentage of those, a small percentage, is in the habitable zone. So you say, well, then that's not a whole lot of planets out there like us, is it? Well, actually, it's a massive number of planets out there like us.
Infinite amount. It's so big.
It's a boop load of planets, right?
Yes, it is.
The fact, I self-censored. It's because of the fact that we have perhaps 100 billion stars in our galaxy and possibly 400 billion. I mean, it's anything in between. We don't even have an accurate count. We don't have the ability to even count our own stars yet. All right, we can count other galaxy stars with no problem because we're outside looking in.
Right.
But we're inside looking through, and that's harder. So, so let's say at 100 billion, it looks like. Remember that nighttime sky you looked at? You said there was just stars everywhere. The Milky Way was just brilliant. Well, the Milky Way is all stars, and we now know that there are more planets than stars in the universe. Okay, that tells us something. That tells us if there's more planets than stars, that hey, look out. I mean, we have planets almost everywhere we look, and in the Kepler data, if we just go with the data. If we extrapolate that data outward, it tells us that perhaps up to 10% of the stars in the galaxy have Earth-like planets in them. Let that sink in.
Yeah, I know.
That means, right? That means that there's possibly 10 billion or up to 40 billion Earth-like planets just here.
Just here.
And by the way, there's many billions of galaxies. So, so the question of whether someone might have been able to develop interstellar technology, to me, is kind of a moot point because we've only been here for 50,000 history-keeping years, okay? 4.4 million if you want to count Lucy, as Australopithecus africanus, when we first started walking as bipedal creatures. And in that time, we already can see a future where we can go interstellar. Enter Miguel Alcubierre in 1994 when he came up with that warp drive concept.
That's right.
Which he named in deference to Gene Roddenberry. And that warp drive concept was laughingly impossible because it required to create the warp bubble a planet the size of Jupiter converted all to energy in order to get the energy to make the warp bubble. Well, that was stupendous and unbelievably impossible. So it became what's called a thought problem. And then a few years ago, that warp ring on that ship that he designed was reworked by another team, and they discovered, whoa, you don't need nearly that amount. You can actually do the same thing with an equivalent energy that would correspond to the mass of, say, the Voyager spacecraft. Well, NASA went, boing, and they heard that and said, hey, does that mean it's possible? And, of course, of a NASA scientist who thinks it is, and he's funded to look at the possibility of having an Alcubierre drive at some point in the future. Now, we may be 100 years away before the first probe, the Proxima Centauri, and that is where we're going to go, of course.
That's where, no doubt. Well, first off, it's the closest. That's the first reason.
Right.
But the second reason is it actually, not only is it the closest star, but it is the closest planet to us, and it is nearly perfect. But this is what's funny about that. We're going to take a break. I'm going to keep you for overtime. This is what's funny about that, Mark. The closest star to us, the closest exoplanet to us, is the last one we found. Somebody help me here. And it doesn't even make any sense. Let's take a break.
I can speak to that when you come back.
Can we take? Can I keep you for another 10 minutes?
Sure.
That's what I'm talking about. Marc D'Antonio is our guest tonight. Take a quick break. I just have to say, this is one of the best conversations I've had in a long time. But the point to that is, say that every night, right? We just get better and better. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us. More with Mark right after this short break. We'll be right back.
You are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
So you went to dinner last night, you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy, spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. GetTheTea.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. GetTheTea.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of ugh. We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Doing a little overtime tonight with Marc D'Antonio. Talking about exoplanets and technology and of ET. And Mark, this is what blows my mind, and I'm in total agreement with you. We need to wrap our minds around a couple of facts, and the facts are the age of the universe, 14 billion years. Here we are at 4.5 billion years on planet Earth. Our technology in the last 100 years out of 4.5 billion years is, right? It's like that. It's that fast. And the last 20 years, we have the technology now to answer a lot of questions. We are advancing quickly, but now I can't snap my fingers fast enough to represent what amount of time that is. Now, if somebody out there, of which there are probably a billion or more civilizations out there that are a billion years ahead of us, right? A billion years.
It's amazing to think about.
You can't wrap your mind around that. You cannot. So if we are, dropping off rovers on Mars and the moon, and we, Pioneer 11 and stuff that, finally left the solar system. If that's what we are doing with our little primitive ape-like minds today, then somebody out there not only knows that we are here, but they've known about Earth for a very, very long time. That's the only answer.
Yeah, and that was sort of my point before. In fact, that I think, and that is that if we're looking for other places like our own, other worlds like our own, then certainly another civilization is doing the same thing. And you might say, well, there's no guarantee they may look like us or anything, except for the fact that I think that they may, and there's a reason. If we take a look at the building blocks of life that Earth made itself, okay, the Earth makes its own amino acids. It's been proven by the Miller-Urey experiment in the 50s. And the comets will deliver water and amino acids. Meteors deliver water and amino acids mostly to us. The amino acids, the building blocks of life, were transported here, and we make them. And if you look at every single life form on the planet, every advanced life form, that is multicellular life form, has some form of symmetry, doesn't it?
It's the same 20 amino acids in everything.
Right. I mean, obviously there's DNA. We know, but you're correct. Okay. And it's naturally, and it's right. But think now, life forms all have this symmetry to them. Now, this symmetry looks to me like, we didn't have anything to do with salamanders. Why are they symmetric? They have 2 eyes. They have 2 front legs, 2 back legs, a tail. Okay. But there's symmetry there. Why is that? Why do creatures have this setup? Why do they get designed this way? And why is it replete in the animal kingdom that they all have this symmetry like this? Is it possible that it's because that's a template provided by the universe?
And gravity, no matter what, if we look at, the Goldilocks situation out there, water, it doesn't evaporate, it doesn't freeze, so you have that medium for life to be created, right? So, you need water, you need a few other things, but gravity is going to be about the same too as well. So, depending on the strength of the gravity, that's how tall these beings could be, right? Less gravity, a little taller, more gravity, a little shorter, a little stubbier, but you're going to have that same symmetry there. And stereo vision and, left and right and all of that. And that just makes sense. That if you have the same amino acids, the same construction of chromosomes and DNA, these are the things that are just part of the universe. I totally agree with you. So why wouldn't they,
by the universe?
Yeah, why wouldn't they look, different skin color? Possibly, we have different skin colors here on Earth. So right.
And imagine if we were around a star that's what's called an M-class dwarf. That means a star that's red, primarily at the end of the stellar evolution spectrum there. In the diagram that outlines the types of the stars and the spectral types of the stars. M stars are very low temperature. They're not as bright as the sun, maybe 100th or so as bright as the sun. Very small. In fact, some exoplanet systems we've found look more like Jupiter systems, with the star being a little bit larger than Jupiter, but having planets as close to the star as Jupiter's moons are to Jupiter. One such exoplanet system is TRAPPIST-1. It's a tiny little M-class star, and it has planets that go around the star in no more than 20 days. So the longest year on TRAPPIST-1 is around the outermost planet, and it takes 20 days to go around the star. Mercury takes 88 days to go around our sun. And all those planets, all 7 planets on TRAPPIST-1 are closer to their star than Mercury is to ours. So, and 3 of them are in the habitable zone for that star. All right? So now we're talking about differences in years, differences in time. What would evolution look like on a planet like that? What would creatures look like? Well, the red star is dimmer, so if they developed some type of vision, wouldn't they have eyes that were more sensitive to, say, the red light, and not even know what green light is, not even know what white light is? They may not even be able to see blue light, because the star never gives it off.
Right.
And they evolved that way. So their eyes might look differently. Maybe their eyes might be, black, because they're more like receptors as opposed to actual eyes. So who knows what the creature will actually be designed like. But the actual gross course analysis of what they might look like, to me, I think that they're going to probably have and be made of the things in the universe that are copious in abundance, and that's amino acids. They're going to have that as a basis for their life. I think that's true, and even carbon-based life forms. I mean, we look everywhere we look, we see carbon-based compounds being generated. The south pole of Saturn's moon Enceladus, Europa now shows geysers that have chemistry in it that is conducive to creating life. And if that's the case, it's everywhere.
Well, let me ask you this. You do have a close association with NASA. Are they sitting on knowledge that we don't know about? Does Washington D.C. have contact with ET if they are visiting us? And I don't want to disrupt your relationship with NASA, but do they know something that they are not disclosing to us?
I think that NASA, honestly, I don't really have the relations with NASA you may think I have, but my relations are more with the U.S. Navy because I do Navy work since 1995. That was my primary business started as a Navy contractor kind of a thing. And to that end, I've been involved in projects that I obviously can't talk about, but I will tell you something that I saw on a nuclear sub one time, and that's something that's important, I think, because that is something that is known that isn't being told to us. All right, and I don't think NASA's doing it. I think I hate to say it this way, but I think NASA's too shirt and tie.
Right. Wait. Slow down. What did you see on the nuclear sub?
Oh, I'm coming back to that. I'm not going to hang on that one. See, in the mid-'90s, I did a project for the Navy, and they said, hey, that was great. Want to go for a ride in the sub? I said, yeah. So I was like, wow, that's great. So I went out on a submarine for a period of time as a guest of the Navy. So I got best quarters, best food. I mean, it was very nice, Wow. And at the time, it was a nice treatment for someone that did something for them. And then, as I said, it was the most fun I had getting horribly seasick. I didn't have sea legs for being on a sub because think about it, it's a sewer pipe with end caps on it, right?
Yeah, right.
It rolls on the surface like something fierce, like a barrel going over Niagara Falls. So it was kind of tough. So I sat in a little side area off the control room, and it's called the sonar shack, and I was actually letting my stomach settle. And as it was settling, I heard noises of the sub. The sub is very loud inside. Okay, there's a lot of ambient noise all over the place, a lot of high pressure air, always sounding off. You always hear it. On the outside of the sub, it's quiet as anything. You can't hear anything, and that's of course our technology. That's what we're good at. So I'm sitting there zoning out, hearing this noise. It's like white noise in my head, and there's a kid next to me looking at the sonar display in front of him, and I'm sitting in front of a sonar display that's not on. At least I didn't think it was. It turned out it was. And I'm sitting there zoning out, and I'm almost kind of on the edge of sleep, and my stomach's starting to feel a little bit better. All of a sudden, I hear, con sonar, fast mover. I was like, what? I thought, somebody fired a torpedo at us? Am I going to die out here because I wanted to go for a ride? Oh, man.
Right.
And I got adrenaline started surging, and all of a sudden I was like wide awake. And seasickness? What's that, So the executive officer comes around, and he says to the sonar kid, what do you got? What's going on? And he points to something on the screen. I couldn't hear what he was talking about. But he points to this trail on the screen. And again, being that there's a lot of noise, when they're talking soft, I didn't hear it. But when I distinctly saw and heard the XO ask him, well, what's the speed on that thing? Well, how fast is it going? And the kid said to him, he held his hands out like I don't know, but he had an answer. He was holding his hands out going, it's several hundred knots, sir.
What?
That's what he said.
Underwater? Several hundred knots underwater?
He said several hundred knots. Now, he could have said 700 knots.
Same thing.
I heard several hundred knots. That's what I heard.
There's no difference between 300 miles an hour and 700 miles an hour under the water, but continue.
I couldn't imagine, right? And
right.
I, of course, now was like, my adrenaline was now flowing. And I was like, what? And I'm looking at the screen. I couldn't tell on the waterfall display he's looking at. I couldn't tell the speed and all that. And the executive officer said, "You got confirmation of that?" And the kid leaned over and said to me, "Excuse me, sir." And I leaned back in the chair, and he checked the sonar that was on, as it turned out, in front of me. And once he got the screen active, then they saw a little trail start to form. He said, "Yeah, same here, sir." So it wasn't a machine anomaly, because those were actually two separate and distinct sonars on the sub. Well, anyway, the kid said to him, he'd never seen this before, obviously, and he says to the XO, he goes, "What do I do with this?" Something like that, because I kind of heard that. And the XO just said to him, "Log it and dog it." And the kid said, "Yes, sir." And the XO walked away. And I said, "Oh, no, there's no logging it and hiding it." And that's what log it and dog it was.
Right.
I went over to the XO and I said, again, you got to remember now, look, I'm an invited guest on a submarine.
You're a civilian, right?
I'm a civilian. I'm cool. I have access. I'm the man. I had a clearance, right? So I walked up to the guy and he said, XO, I'm familiar with these fast movers. Is there anything I can help you with? The guy looked at me, cool as a cucumber. He said, "Mr. D'Antonio, are you having a good time?" "Yes, sir, I am. Let's keep it that way." And he turned and walked away. And I just sort of wilted. I got down like 2 feet tall, and I kind of waddled back to the chair. I was like, wow. So a few years later, I had an opportunity to do a job for the Joint Chiefs. And I got to talk to some folks that are in very, very heavy positions on the Joint Chiefs. And I took one aside one time and I asked him, I said, "Hey, what can you tell me about the Fast Mover program?" And he looked at me and he smiled and he says, "I can't talk about the program, I'm sorry." And I was like, I think he probably saw my jaw fall to the floor. And what that told me was...
He knew what you were talking about.
Yes. I needed to hear no more. By saying nothing, he said everything.
Right.
And that blew me away, Jimmy. That blew me away. I could not believe it. And then it was like, wow, I drove home from Washington that day, like careening all over the road. I'm surprised I didn't get pulled over, because I was so back in that moment.
Well,
because I realized it was real.
Yeah, what do you think it was?
I have a theory, and it's only a theory. I don't know for sure. But that's why in our UFOTOG 2 systems, I have a C version that I want to make that is going to sit down and hang under the water 20 or 30 feet, and it's not going to look up, it's going to look down. Okay? So it'll float in the currents and look for things. I think that if an alien civilization was spying on us, where would they go?
Underwater.
Well, they might fly. Yes, exactly. They might fly over the ground, they might fly over the water, and they might fly over the land. Most likely they would be underwater. Because if they could travel interstellar, they don't have problems with mediums like the water or the air. They can get through it. What's water to them? Just thicker air,
Well, and they've got water on their planet, and they're more advanced than us, and they've figured out, that it's a good hiding place. 1 and 2, they figure out how to get through it quickly.
Exactly. So maybe they actually have a water presence on their planet that's such, as you say, that they actually utilize it to its full capacity. Maybe they build their own water from they do atomic assembly. Which we're going to do eventually, actually, So I think that the bottom line is there probably some form of observation taking place on this planet, and the U.S. government knows about it, and they're not telling anybody. I know this from first-hand exposure to it. Unwittingly, that was first-hand exposure, But basically, it was a USO, an unknown submerged object that zipped, it's some distance from the sub. I didn't get the distance away, actually. I wish I did.
Can you tell us, will you do this on the air? What was the sub? What was the year? What was the month?
Well, I can tell you that it was the mid-'90s. That's as far as I can go, unfortunately. But,
Mark.
And I can't. There's a lot more to this than that.
You're such a shill.
I am not a shill. I wouldn't have told you that at all.
I know, right? And see, this is the thing. When something like that is disclosed, and maybe you give me the information off of the air, or there's a way for me to collect this, and I go back to the Navy and I try to do a Freedom of Information Act request, or try to get to some of this information.
You won't get that.
You won't get it. You won't get
that.
And you're a first-hand witness to this.
You won't get that.
Yeah.
You just have me saying, and they're just going to say I'm full of crap.
Right,
I know. And the reason they're going to say that is because I shouldn't have said it in the first place, probably. But fact is, I want them to come clean.
Have you?
I've done it before with them, I've done it before.
I know you have. What about Chase Kletzky? Her husband, who is brilliant. Have you shared this story with him?
I have, in a sense. I mean, I actually told the story. He was present. Chase called me today. We actually talked today about other things. And she, I kind of knew Pete sort of at the same time I knew her, because he was a commander in the Navy for many years.
Right.
And he has a model or two of mine, okay, which he had, I think, when I met Chase, he already had those models. Well, anyway, so I knew Pete Kletzky. And I talked to her about it, but I mentioned it in one of my talks, and he was in the room. And I know better than to go up to an active submarine commander and start asking him questions like that. Okay, I know the routine. I know the respect that has to be paid to folks like that. You don't.
You have to.
Like
he intimidates the crap out of me. First of all, he's
a nice guy. He's very quiet. He's perfect for the job.
He's a big boy, though.
He's tall. You're tall. Everybody's tall. It's okay.
Yeah.
Everybody's taller than me. I'm 5'9". It seems like everyone's taller than me.
Right. But I think Pete, coming from, he's a patriot, and there's no way that but I think he would enjoy the story. I would like to know if he has any response to it. What is a fast mover? Have you experienced that? Is there something to this? And I doubt he says anything.
You can ask him.
And that's the thing.
Go right ahead. Well, go right ahead, Jim. What do you got to lose?
Well, isn't that the brilliant part of all of this? Is that we do have access to somebody like him. I've never wanted to abuse it, though. That's the thing. Because
the Navy's been my bread and butter for many years, so obviously I have to be fairly circumspect. Now, a couple years ago when I had my surgery and all that stuff happened, I was in recovery, trying to get back to just being able to talk again, because I couldn't do that either. I had to, some things had to give. So I had to let my clearance lapse. It went, and I could no longer do the defense work, which is fine. Because, frankly, I was sort of getting tired of having defense people coming in the house whenever they kind of wanted to and walk through my house with impunity and look for any bugs or signs of any surreptitious devices or whatever. And,
right.
And then every year you read the Riot Act, even though you've done nothing wrong, and they want you to make sure you understand the rules and regulations. And that's great. I'm fine with that. That was okay. And it's still okay with me. But I just don't have the energy to actually climb back into that arena right now. I'm okay with where I am. I'm going to focus on doing the private sector UFO hunting that I'm doing. I have my company, my visual effects company. I'm doing fine with that. I'm going to let that keep cruising. And I'm going to keep trying to solve the answers if I can. And no one person has all the answers. And that's the beauty of it. I'm not the one-stop shop. I'm not the guy that knows it all. There is none. There is no such thing. So I have to depend on a lot of people, and I've got to vet a lot of people to make sure that they have pure intentions with trying to find the answers. Because some folks want to actually take our data. They've already mentioned things like they want to take our data and turn it into a TV show. It's like, well, wait, that immediately compromises the quality of the research.
That's right.
And we're not going to do that. Okay. It'd be nice to take it after the fact, yes, but we're not going to fabricate and invent anything to keep a show going. No, not at all. Not going to happen. Never, ever, ever.
And that's what you have to do. You have to maintain your integrity. Well, I can assure you of this. We have taken care of your security clearance for you for the Navy. It ain't ever going to happen after this show.
You know what? It doesn't matter because I haven't violated anything, and that's okay. And then, the thing that's funny is, there's a lot of folks, I'm sure that, like some of the folks in the UFO industry, they cling to them and they think they're doing the right thing. But when they start saying that they're going to reveal classified information and classified documents, you know they're lying right off the bat. Because you can't do that. You won't do that. You know, you're not going to reveal anything classified. Because if you do, you're going to be tried and jailed for violations of the Espionage Act. It's that simple. And there's no black. It's black and white. There's no gray areas here. How do I know that? Because I was in that industry since 1995. I know that. You know, any revelation, even if it's unintentional, you're in violation of the Espionage Act and you'll be prosecuted. So if someone says to you, I'm going to be showing you classified documents, you know that they're either going to get arrested or they'll never get to do it.
Or
they may show.
Or they're bogus.
Or they're bogus, and that's right. And that's the kind of thing that we're treated to in ufology. People make these claims, maybe to catch attention, maybe to get funding. I don't know what it is. I just can't back any of that stuff because I know it's a lie. I know those things aren't true. I know you're not going to reveal classified information because if you did, you would be on the front page of the New York Times the very next day that you were arrested and you're going to be tried for treason and violations of the Espionage Act. You know, it's that simple. There is, again, no gray area. No gray area. And that's the thing that bothers me about ufology. You know, that everyone has an angle, you know, and it's like there's no gimmicks. We're just trying to get to the bottom of this with science, man.
But that's exactly the point, you know, and I don't need any evidence. I have seen what I've seen in the skies. Yep. That's it. Let's figure out the next step and let's get science involved. That's where you come into play. Mark, thank you so much, man, for going into overtime like this tonight. Brilliant conversation. I can't believe it's taken you 4 or 5 years to get on the show, but let's do it again here real soon.
Well, I think you didn't want to talk about the drone thing, and I think you're very happy now that it's behind you, so maybe you'll have me on a little more frequently.
I'm right.
And you know what? I'll say that I agree that you can be right.
Thank you so much, Mark. Behave out there, my friend.
Jimmy, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Marc D'Antonio, everybody. Now, his website, if you want to go there, it's on jimmychurchradio.com. It's fxmodels.com. Go check it out. But he's got a new website out, and also his YouTube channel and the sky watching that they do with Forte, New York Sky. All of that stuff is all there. Go check it out. Brilliant, brilliant channel. It's been Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Marc D'Antonio. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark T. Cover, LJ3, Renee, Jonas, Dennis, thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar, Fady by Dale, Webmaster, Drew, The Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Tomorrow night, right here, Rob Potter. Until then, everybody be safe. Go Beckley Tuppy.